Nothing Worthwhile, the recognized symbol of excellence in crappy podcasting.
We are America's number one bi-coastal podcast featuring two annoying Jews. Welcome to yet another edition of Nothing Worthwhile on the West Coast, where temperatures are still tipping well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the great city of Phoenix, Arizona. I don't know how great Phoenix, Arizona is, but I am your host and moderator, Evan Moody, on the East Coast. Safe from all impending hurricanes, it is Mr. Friends Academy. In the metropolis known as Coral Springs, Florida, our cultural and in-house critic, Andrew Groo. Groo? I'm always scared to ask, how the hell are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. In fact, I don't even know how hot it is outside because I haven't stepped out in the last 4 weeks, so I have no idea what's going on out there. I'm doing fine. Back in school full swing, or maybe a check swing. So, I don't know how to describe it in baseball terms, but everything is it's in the hundreds here, in the middle of the day, but it gets okay at night. But yeah, everything's okay. I mean, how different could it be than it was 6 months ago at this point?
Well, that's true. What is your AC? What is your AC set at? I'm just curious. Like 65?
No, 52. My bills are extraordinary. No, it's I put it at 70 during the day, or whenever I'm in the house, it's at 70, and then if I'm going to be gone for a few hours, I'll put it up to 78, and then just lower it when I come back, just to conserve energy. Isn't that what they say?
I would be so uncomfortable because I keep it at 76.
Yeah, I know you like it warm.
At 70.
You like
I'm
it
a
warm.
big pussy.
I didn't say that.
I can't stand being cold.
You are.
I had a bad experience. I don't know, about maybe 10, 15 years ago. I was on a plane and they had the AC, or whatever those. I don't know, whatever that. They're spilling that dirty air into that locked tube they call an airplane. And I was in t-shirt and shorts, and for 3-4 hours, I just sat fetal position, freezing, and I was like, never again.
Yeah, I remember when we went to WrestleMania when we were staying in, what was that, the Tuberculosis Inn or whatever it was called. I was always turning it down, and you kept going to turn it up.
It's like bosom buddies, two wacky guys.
I don't care what you say anymore.
Yeah. All right, Groo, listen, glad to hear everything's doing okay. Before we get today's topic at hand, let us scale back to our last podcast. It was the real world's champion when the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, left the NWA/WCW and headed north to Titan Sports, a.k.a. the World Wrestling Federation. Mm-hmm. Groo, you may remember that we talked about the decaying relationship that Ric Flair had with the NWA/WCW, especially Jim Herd, the potential Spartacus gimmick, the really big mistake of having Ric Flair still hold the NWA title, Vince McMahon making Ric Flair an offer that he cannot refuse, the big gold belt, and the real world's champion gimmick, perhaps the greatest Royal Rumble of all time. No Hogan Flair at Mania. Instead, it's Macho Flair. After 2 years, Ric Flair is gone and shakes Vince's hand on the way out. We said no matter what, Flair to the WWF was somewhat a success. Oh, actually, I said it, and then you said you changed your mind and agreed. I enjoyed strolling down the Nature Boy memory lane with you on this one. Final thoughts on the Real World's Champion podcast.
Well, I listened to it back, and I thought it was really, really good, but I have to tell you, in my mind, there seems to be something missing, and I think I know what it is. I didn't really, usually when we do these things, these long-range podcasts, I come away learning something new. and I didn't really. There was nothing that surprised me about the Ric Flair WWF story. And I guess that's by nature, no pun intended. It was still terrific. It's still a lot of fun to do. I just didn't. There was no revelation. There was nothing revelatory to me. But that's okay.
I mean, do you find when we have these podcasts that you learn something perhaps about the topic that you weren't aware of? Prior?
Yeah. I learn how you look at it, because you do all this research, but also your point of view and the research that you do usually unearths something or several things that I wasn't aware of. This one, I don't think there was any more research you could have done. It's an open book. So I didn't really come away with wow, I didn't realize that. I was just too aware of the topic. Sometimes it's better to go in with only opinions and not much fact. But it's still an incredible. I mean, look, we got 3 hours out of it, so it was plenty to discuss.
Well, in all fairness, we took about 80 minutes of just saying hello to each other.
That's
and
true.
Dishing on
prior at the end,
topics.
And at the end of the day, we got to realize, who do we do this podcast for? Do we do it for the fans, or do we do it for ourselves? And the truth is, we do it for ourselves. So,
well, I try to convince Groo we should try to actually we should craft a well done broadcast. But yes, we pick the topics because we enjoy talking about it.
Yeah, well,
I'm a little different because I kind of throw it to you. So I don't even like going into a podcast without doing research, and some of that is actually just disciplining myself and sitting down and watching. For example, with Flair, I made myself go on the network and watch a couple of his matches in that 91, 92, run, because I've seen it, but I wanted to refresh my memory. I didn't want to just talk from notes. I wanted to actually physically watch some of the stuff and see how it feels.
I do that sometimes.
In 2020, how did it feel watching it?
Yeah, I do that sometimes, but most of the time I like to go in cold, and that's a product of many years of laziness. Just I was going to say many years of research and understanding, but no, it's just that laziness. But I did watch a couple of Flair things just to remind. Like, I watched the beginning stuff, like some of the Heenan vignettes with the real belt, and then Flair's introduction, his first couple of appearances, and I did watch the Royal Rumble. But I didn't get too deep because, like I said, I like to find out things during the show here. And that's and I didn't really find out anything because I knew everything. I'm very familiar with that story.
Certainly, Ric Flair as a topic for wrestling fans is well known, Groo, and we got a heck of a lot of comments on our Facebook page. So let's get to it, Groo. You ready with the jingle?
You mean this jingle?
Letters, we got your letters. We got your letters every day. Mailman ding dong, give me a letter today.
All right, Groo, we had a lot of comments on our ever so crappy Facebook fan page.
It's getting better. It's getting better.
Okay, well, let me give out the website. Let me give out the webpage.
Yes.
Facebook.com/nothingworthwhile 1985. Listen, I want to throw it out there. We had over the last month, 20% of our viewership is from the country India, and specifically Bengaluru, India, the city. Listen, I have like an 8th grade education, so I have no idea what Bengaluru is, but
I know where it is. It's in India.
Okay, well, thank you.
And we are having, and just the good news for them is that we're going to go on a 3-month hiatus while all of our shows are now dubbed into Hindi. So, we're going to have, that's for India. We're going to have it, so they can listen to it in their mother tongue.
But we would love any of the listenership from India. Hit us up on Facebook. Again, Facebook.com/nothingworthwhile 1985. Groo, a lot of comments from the fans about Flair, that run, Flair Hogan, WrestleMania. Let's see. Let's go to some comments. We had referenced Pro Wrestling Illustrated, PWI. We got some comments about loving PWI. However, specifically comments, Ric Flair, Sting, and other imposters filled those pages. It was WWF or nothing. WCW was like orange juices, not named Tropicana, not even worth a try. Obviously, I don't agree with that. While, yes, I was a main WWF guy, I certainly liked to go over on the Turner side and check out WCW. Not Georgia Championship, which when I was really young, but, WCW, NWA. We've talked about it before, but Groo, what was your reference as a wrestling viewer on television? Did you occasionally go over and watch the other guys?
Not really before in this era that we're talking about. Never.
I'm talking about. Let's think. Oh yeah. Well, I'm talking about the Ric Flair, the early '90s,
never.
Late '80s.
Never. I can't even remember. I remember a couple times, and I think I alluded to it last week. A couple times running into WCW Saturday night, but Nitro wasn't a thing yet. And you never really knew it when it was on. And I love that analogy. Yes, the WWF is Tropicana, and everything else was everything else that you never bought. I never drank Minute Maid. I never drank, it was always Tropicana, pure premium, no pulp. And, that was the WWF. Everything else was, the copycat brands. That's what it was to me.
And then I guess you agree with that comment.
I do. I like that. That was that's a good analogy for how I looked at it. I know you went deeper than that with your fandom.
Well, I don't think I would consider myself a fan of WCW or NWA back then, but my curiosity, I had plenty of time.
Let me ask you a question then. Here's a good question. Okay? For example, when Ric Flair was coming, we knew that it was the biggest guy from the other side coming over. Even when Rick Martel came in like 88, 87 or 88, that was a big deal to us because we knew from PWI that he was a champion in like the NWA. But that's about it. So my question to you is, for example, like when The Undertaker came over in 1990, was this a brand new guy to you, or did you know that this was somebody from one of the other promotions?
Well, you got to know that answer. That was a brand new guy to me. I didn't
know
too.
WCW. That's the point.
Well, you asked me a question. Let me respond. I didn't. My viewership with WCW or NWA was inconsistent. I mean, if I was sitting home on a Saturday afternoon with nothing to do and wrestling was on, I'd watch it because I was a wrestling fan. But no, I knew the big guys. I knew what I read. I knew what I read in PWI. What I know, Mean Mark Callis, no. But let me throw something back to you because we're talking specifically about Pro Wrestling Illustrated, which was sort of the granddaddy of all wrestling magazines when we were kids. Mm-hmm. Did you enjoy reading about other territories like NWA and their guys, or did you just try to find the WWF product notes and read about what you knew?
I enjoyed reading controversial things. So if there were headlines, like I can remember one specifically that I don't even know why it intrigued me, but I remember that it was the end of some day. I was in Penn Station, in the porn section of the Hudson News, and I accidentally wandered into the sports section and ran into PWI, and I saw the headline. It was like Chris Adams blind. And it had like him with like these big, huge fake sunglasses on. So I opened up the magazine and I read that story. I didn't know who Chris Adams was. I just knew that a wrestler was, quote unquote, I guess kayfabe blinded in a match. So that's the kind of thing that would catch my attention. But habitually, I would really just look for the WWF stuff.
See, when I was a kid, I was such a stat guy. I loved reading. I loved reading about other territories. Obviously, the major ones in PWI, which were when we were kids, was the NWA and the AWA, and I loved reading. I loved reading the top 10 ratings. I loved reading. I had no reference of it other than my imagination, And so when Ric Flair finally came to the WWF, I had seen him a little bit on television, but really I was propped by my imagination because I read about this guy for so many years, and the magazine had positioned himself as the top guy in WCW, NWA. So I was super, super excited.
Actually, what you said was like my favorite part of those, the rankings, the most hated, most popular.
Loved it.
And what always confused me is there would always be at least one or two wrestlers who were on both lists, and that never made sense to me. I remember Jerry Lawler was like number 2 most hated and number 3 most popular because he was both in, I think, WCW, but he was also in the Memphis territory, which was huge.
Yeah,
he was like the hero of Memphis and the villain everywhere else. So it always confused me how someone could be on both lists. Now I get it. But it was those lists were interesting to me. But I hardly ever actually bought the magazine. I would stand there in the with all the people in the Hudson News at Penn Station. I don't know. I don't want to sound like a scumbag, but
Well, clearly Hudson News has left an indelible mark on your brain.
A lot of stuff happening, man. Wait,
yeah,
what?
I think when you say Hudson News and Penn Station, I have an urge to go to the bathroom and wash my hands vigorously with hot water and soap.
I do feel dirtier.
Well, all right. Let's get to some more comments, which you did reference on the Facebook page, but let's do it for our listeners. Andrew, can you please define what is a dirt sheet? And please don't tell us it is some kind of cloth in your bathroom that you use. All right. Anyway,
hey, you said that. I didn't say that. A dirt.
This is a guy who references, wandering into the porn section.
I don't know what you're
Hudson News.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have terrible short-term memory.
Let's go.
Dirt sheet is basically the insiders. It's like I compared it. My brother asked me, and I said I compared it to like Variety magazine in a way. Variety for Hollywood is like it tells like what's filming where, who is being. It's like the backstage stuff that we're not supposed to know. And dirt sheets are basically like rundowns. Like if we had a dirt sheet for this show, it would say 1 opening, 2 letters, 3 like those kinds of things. And dirt sheets were also writers would. Look at dirt sheets and see that, this person might be coming to jumping ship from WCW or WWF or whatever. So the dirt sheets was basically the insider info that were not on the newsstands.
Did you subscribe to any dirt sheets?
Yeah, I think I talked about it last time. That Rich Mancuso guy from the Bronx, who was on WFAN like once a week.
Wasn't Rich Mancuso a legitimate sports announcer?
I don't think so. Maybe he was. I only remember him for this wrestling thing, and he would come on once a week. I think it was WFAN, but it might not have been. I'd have to Google that, but he had his own dirt sheet that you could subscribe to, which was literally a newsletter. It wasn't a magazine. It was literally like 4 pieces of paper stapled over and mailed that you would just like rip apart, and then
those were the early dirt sheets.
Yeah, and it basically told us everything that TV wasn't telling us. So that was the only one I really ever subscribed to. It was basically the internet before the internet, right? I mean.
Yeah, I didn't subscribe to any dirt sheets, but I definitely did like some of the 1-800 or the 900 calls, Coach Kirk, and even some of the early WWF, the sort of the dirt sheet lines that they put out there.
But did you get your parents' permission beforehand, like Gene told you?
Probably not. Hence, we only we didn't make too many calls. Actually, I can remember calling with a friend of the show, Craig Hassenbein. We called Coach Kirk, his 1-800 line or 1-900 line. So let me get to our show friend comments.
I called Shannon Tweed's 1-900-9. Does that?
All right, let's stay focused. Thank you. Let me get to the comments, please. One of Craig's comments was he casted aspersions on maybe my claim that Ric Flair was a territory guy He said Flair was not necessarily a territory guy. Andrew, what do you say about Ric Flair? I was referring to Ric Flair's background in the late 70s and 80s. That yes, indeed, I'll double down and say he was the quintessential territory guy before major federations became a lot more fleshed out. What do you say?
Well, Ric Flair, like most of these guys in the late 70s and early 80s, were all kind of territory guys. I think Craig was responding to the fact that this was it's hard to say because we always saw him as a territory guy. As WWF fans, I saw him as a territory guy. If you weren't in
What's so hard to say about it? I don't understand.
No. I'm trying to get say it right. Because I'm remembering the comment, and he was saying that Ric Flair wasn't a territory guy at that time when he came over to the WWF. And my argument is that to people like us, anybody who wasn't a long-time WWF person must have been a territory guy. That's the way it felt. WCW was not a significant threat at the time. It was just another territory to us. There was WCW, NWA, Georgia Champion. There were all these different things. And so to us, it didn't matter which one Ric Flair was in. He was always going to be number one at it, but he wasn't in the WWF. So to us, that made him a territory guy.
It wasn't referencing 1991. I said he cut his teeth in the territory.
Right, and Craig agreed with that. I think Craig agreed with that. I think what he was saying was that we played it off as if he was a territory guy when he came into WWF, and my argument is that to us he was, or to me he was. That's all, because he wasn't like I said, anybody who wasn't in WWF must have been in the minor leagues, and the minor leagues were the territories. Am I wrong?
Of course.
Let
me. Here is my point. The ultimate debate of the podcast, and we got a lot of comments, was obviously Hogan versus Flair at WrestleMania, and the choice not to have it at WrestleMania 8. And my thing is, Ric Flair made a career out of popping from territory city to city and making their top guy look like $1 million. And of course, there was the argument that Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan on the house show loop was not a great match. And sort of the feeling I got was you were okay with it. Ultimately, they went Hogan, Sid, and they went Macho Flair at Mania. And my thing is, I was not. That I will say, and I reference. I have an article I want to reference, but I said probably the biggest mistake in my era of fandom, not having Hogan versus Flair at WrestleMania. The two biggest stars at the time from the two biggest companies, but Flair cut his teeth. Late 70s, 80s, go Florida, Georgia, whatever. I don't know. Puerto Rico. He went to Japan and back. And wrestled their top guys and made it and had fantastic matches and made everyone look great.
Yeah, well, as far as the WrestleMania thing, I agreed with you that it was a mistake, but it didn't bother me the way it bothered you. Because what they came up with as far as on Flair's end with that was good. They came up with a great match and they had a great story. I loved that whole, I went over it last time. But I do agree with you that it was a mistake. They should have gone there and didn't. But it didn't, at the time, it didn't bother me. I didn't stay up late at night thinking about that. I was thinking about other things.
He's got to goof around, and he can't talk about anything seriously.
I said what I said. I mean,
I found an article, www.guff.com, which I'm not going to state the credibility of the website, but they called Ric Flair in 92 not wrestling Hulk Hogan as the biggest what the fuck decision in pro wrestling history. And I quote from the website, Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan was the biggest dream match imaginable throughout the 1980s. They were the champions of the two biggest companies, NWA, WCW, and WWF, and fans speculated for years what would happen if they ever were in the same promotion. In 1991, Ric Flair came to the WWF, stayed for over a year, and never wrestled Hulk Hogan on television. The biggest WrestleMania match possible at that time was passed over in favor of Hulk Hogan versus Sid Vicious, which closed out WrestleMania 8 with a disqualification win for the Hulkster. Now, I'm giving you a big boo. That's it. Even talking about it, I still get angry. I still get angry over it.
Well, if you remember, if you recall, I said on Flair's end, I wasn't bothered, but the Hogan Sid thing was was terrible. That, and I think I was clear on that. But I'm agreeing with you. I'm just not as passionate about that because I wasn't as disappointed as you were. But you were also a much more hardcore guy. Like, for example, let me ask you a question. If Ric Flair and Hogan had that match, who would you have been hoping to win?
That's a good question. I mean, back then, probably Hogan. I mean,
all right, I agree. I agree with you. Obviously,
I was a WWF guy. So.
Yeah. Well, look. You know, I'm not disappointed. But I do agree with you. It was a missed opportunity. But the interesting thing is because they keep referencing it on other. You know, I was listening to Bruce Pritchard's last week, and they talked about that. I don't even know what the subject was, but they brought that up.
Do me a favor. Don't promote somebody else's.
I'm not promoting. I'm just saying you just read somebody's website.
That's true. Go ahead. Let me hear what
he said Vince didn't want to do it. He said like Vince never planned on doing it. So really, until somebody actually asks Vince McMahon in an interview form to talk about that,
I don't buy that at all.
What's that? You don't
buy that at all because we talked about and you mentioned, and I have seen on I don't remember what specific documentary they did. You had asked, hey, do you think at some point Flair Hogan was booked for WrestleMania? And initially, I think I said I don't think so. But then, as I have watched a documentary in which they did put on the screenshots of promotional vignettes for Hogan versus Flair at Mania, and even like posters, kind of promoting the event. So at some point, it was on somebody's mind that match was going to go down. And actually, what your comments, I want to just reference a little earlier. At the time, when WrestleMania 8, I mean, I was still a young guy. I'll take whatever you could throw at me.
I agree.
Now that I'm older, I think I've actually become more passionate about it because I think what a super missed opportunity.
Like I said, I do agree. It's just, I'm over it.
All right.
I mean, that's
look, Groo. Let's we're over it.
I did mark out when the Ultimate Warrior came back, but then when I look at it now, I'm like,
that's your problem.
Exactly. It was my big problem.
All right. Real quick, we live texted for a couple of bits on the back end of SummerSlam. Real quick, I was wrong. I'll admit it here on the podcast. I liked Randy Orton to beat the King of Claymore County, Drew McIntyre. However, it was Drew McIntyre defeating Randy Orton with a backslide of all things to retain the WWF title. I've bought into McIntyre, Groo. He's now on the doorstep of almost getting Super Cena booking, which I am actually okay with. So, Groo, I don't know if you saw it. Yeah, you did see the main event at SummerSlam, and just give me some thoughts on Drew McIntyre as your champ.
I don't like him as the champ. He's a really good wrestler, but he doesn't have that long-term champion aura about him.
Who are they going to put?
I don't know. They got to go with the guy they think is the best at the time, and if he's the best, then you go with him. That doesn't make him great. It just makes him the best that you got. But his mic skills aren't great. They're okay.
He actually gives a really good promo, and those promos were Randy Orton. Have you watched?
Yes.
I can't talk.
I'm telling you. That's my opinion.
Your opinion is rooted in like 1995 and back, so I can't even ask you about current stuff.
I won't argue with that. I like him, but it's not appointment television to me when he's on. I told you, I was texting you back and forth. I'd like to see Randy Orton go full tilt face at this point, and you were arguing that he's better as a heel because I think Orton.
He's much better.
I think Orton could could be the face of the company right now for at least for a while. Maybe a year while Cena's doing his thing. If Cena's done, I don't know. With Lesnar definitely indefinitely out, it seems to be. I do like. Well,
he's a free agent. First, hold on.
I've been reading conflicting things about it.
It's not conflicting. He's a free agent.
Right. So there's no definite plans for him. So consider him out. Right.
So your answer would be Randy Orton and waiting for John Cena, he's never going to come back.
Not waiting, the
guy's doing two.
I think Orton could be their top guy right now.
Vince,
and come on, that's
on your booking.
Wait, Evan, you should give me credit for that because I'm the one who always says he hates Randy Orton, but I'm coming around. I'm seeing the value.
No, you said you hate Randy Orton. You said you hate Randy Orton.
Exactly. But I'm seeing his value as when he's stacked up against all these other guys. Really, he's the elder statesman right now, and I think they could do a lot with him instead of just making him, enhancement talent, which is basically what he did for Drew McIntyre. Right?
He wins almost all of his matches.
Didn't win this one.
Sit there and call it. Come on, to call Randy Orton enhancement talent is ridiculous. You're ridiculous.
Wait,
I'd ask you about
who won, him or Edge? That I forgot.
They split. They won.
Who won that? Match. Who won the boiler room thing or wherever they were? That was Edge, right? That was WrestleMania.
That was Edge, but then the greatest match ever gimmick.
I did not see that one.
I've read both. I didn't either. I've read both matches were pretty well received. Although I thought the Mania match ran a little bit long for my liking.
Yeah,
I think you liked it a lot. But I'll cringe. I'm sure. Let me hear your feedback on the other side, the SmackDown side. We had a triple. Well, no, at SummerSlam we had the Fiend Bray Wyatt beating Braun Strowman. Out of nowhere, we have a returning Roman Reigns who clears the house with both men beating him down. And then a week later, we have another quick WWE pay-per-view, Payback, which actually was pretty solid. And, of course, it was a triple threat. The Fiend Bray Wyatt versus Braun Strowman versus the big dog Roman Reigns. And we have did you see the triple threat match?
Yes, I did.
What'd you think of it?
Loved it. In fact, it was nonstop. I really, really did enjoy it. I was surprised because I usually don't like those matches. Roman was good. Bray and Drew were both really good. It was a very solid match. Three really good wrestlers.
That would be Bray and Braun.
Bray and Braun. Sorry.
I'm very ornery because I'm going to tell you that it wasn't. I was disappointed. Number one. It wasn't really a triple threat. It was Bray and Braun for 15 minutes, and Roman Reigns came out like in the last 3 minutes, and just let me give you my thoughts on it. Okay, and he, speared the crap out of everybody and won, and then they did that stupid ring superplex ring implosion. It's lost its mystique. It felt way too gimmick to me. It happened a couple of times, which I believe was gimmicked as well, but it was so cool the first 2 or 3 times. Now it just felt gimmicked, and I don't really have a problem with them putting the belt on Reigns because he's clearly the top marquee guy. I don't have a problem with it. It just the match. It wasn't really a true triple threat. It's like he ran in for the last 2 minutes, got kind of like a cheap win, and that's my thoughts on the match. We could talk about his character turn and everything.
I guess that's why I said yes. I liked it because I looked at the whole package and I do like the setup.
Well, clearly, Groo is referring to Roman Reigns is now a top heel on SmackDown, paired up with Paul Heyman as his advocate. What do you think so far?
So far, so good. I mean, it's basically what we've wanted for a long time. They were pushing Reigns as the top face for now 6 years. And it just wasn't working. As good as he is, the fans just weren't buying him as a hero. So they've teased it a little bit over the years, but now it seems like they've gone full tilt heel with Reigns and putting him with Paul Heyman. And the way that they did it was terrific. I was like, and even before when he came in and cleaned house at SummerSlam, it was very well done. He was
well done.
Different look, different, like not that different, but different enough so we could tell they were finally doing something. They were taking them in a new direction.
What do you mean by different look?
Well, usually he wears that bulletproof vest style thing, showing off his Samoan tattoo, and like here he just came out in like a T-shirt that was obviously made for him. I forgot what it said. It had some kind of saying like "roll through them" or kill everybody" or something. Typical heel T-shirt. And he had a different look and feel to him that. I'm having trouble putting my, localizing, but it definitely stank of something different. With Roman Reigns, anything different is good, and he made the most of it. He's doing a good job so far. He's got me. Let's put it this way: he's got me back to watching.
His look is different because he got like all of his teeth veneered out. He got goofed on online because his teeth were like really super white. Porcelain.
Is that true?
That is true. Number one. Number two, I actually agree with you. I liked SummerSlam. I thought that was a cool appearance. He laid everybody out with the chairs. I just didn't like how they did the payback match. I would have liked to see him get in there a little while longer. And then I'm not stuck on it, but the fact that he's a returning guy, he hasn't really wrestled, and he just beats like the top two guys on SmackDown. I could complain about that, but I won't. I can live with that. But I like to see. I didn't see SmackDown live. I'll watch it. Maybe I'll watch it even after this podcast. But I'm definitely intrigued to see where they're going with it. And like you said, Paul Heyman, that's not going to hurt.
Yeah, and I like to see it when they have the championship on a heel that everybody could chase. I don't. That's why I don't mind him having the title right now, because as a heel, it works because now you can really build up. I think they're going to build up Bray Wyatt as the top face, Bray and Drew. Braun, I'm not sure where they're going with him. I don't think he even knows.
Yeah, if you watched his documentary, they did like something on the WWE Network, and first of all, the guy's crying.
Oh God, yeah, that's a career killer. Don't they know that by this point?
Wow, I was heavy as a kid. Wow, I was a bullied. Get over it.
Yeah, cry me a river, Jesus.
But I do agree with you. I think, and the documentary is pretty overt. I mean, Braun says he got called in a year ago, and Vince said, you're not it. And I think Vince has a reputation. I think he's respectful, but he can be pretty brutally honest with the guys and the gals. And clearly,
like any boss really should be, I think.
Clearly, they're not ready to give him the belt long term for sure. I mean, he had it for a cup of coffee. And even the Goldberg match was spotty at best. So, what are your thoughts? I don't know if I've asked you, but Thunderdome, you like the whole production?
Yes, very much. It's pretty much, to me, it's like the best thing that they could possibly do in the current situation. I think it's innovative. I think it's cool. I enjoy the piped-in crowd noise. It is very obvious, but it's fun looking at all the screens, and it does give it some color. It does give it a big feel. So I applaud them for that. Whoever idea that was good. I do. It makes it more enjoyable to watch now.
The technology is pretty wild. They have a 2-month residency at the Amway Center in Orlando, so the next 2 months they will house all of the WWE's programming. And from what I've read, they got it super dirt cheap too on the dime. And we know that Vince is certainly the WWE machine. They're excellent businessmen, business people, and so good move there. I enjoyed the production as well. Mm-hmm. So we'll be curious and watch the WWE in the next weeks and months to come and see what is going on. And speaking about that, Groo, what do you do when you're stuck in the house in the middle of a global pandemic? Well, obviously, you go to New You Life Center, of course.
Well, obviously. I mean, it goes without saying.
Listen, Groo, you know the deal. You know the deal.
What deal?
Look, the deal is, look, we're all stuck in the house. I'll tell you what the deal is. Have you ever had this moment where, like, you walk out of the shower and you're completely naked and you look at the mirror and you go, my God, what happened to me?
No, because I never had a chance in the to begin with, so I'm right where I thought I would be.
I mean,
but are you telling me that we can get better?
Groo, you can get better, and you know where to go. You know where to go. Look, New U Life Center, it's Arizona's newest. Well, they're not so new anymore, but they are New U Life Center, uptown section in the beautiful city of Phoenix, Arizona. Look, you want to go and get pampered, you go to New U Life Center. If you're a guy and you want to go and see pretty chicks, you go to New U Life Center. If you're a girl and you want to see well-coiffed guys, you go to New U Life Center. It's all about guys. It's all about meeting guys. I'm all about meeting girls. You go to New U Life Center.
I love it already.
Look, I'm approaching 50. I might have to get hormone balanced. I don't even know what that is, but I might need it. Medical aesthetics, cosmetic injectables, testosterone replacement therapy for men, estrogen replacement therapy for women, Botox.
This sounds like Skynet.
It is like Skynet, just on a cosmetic side. I don't even look amniographic allograft treatment. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds very impressive.
This is going to end up being an ad for like a stereo system, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, New U, look, body contouring using wood therapy. Now, I've done this.
Wood therapy?
Yeah, they get you in a room. You strip down into your skivvies.
Jesus.
You lay on the table. They put some like spa music on. You're really relaxed, and then Marie comes in and she's got these.
Wait, who?
Marie. She comes in and they use these wood tools. It's like a deep tissue massage. It's like almost like it's like a big rolling pin, but it's for your body. And she rolls your legs, your arms, your gut. It just feels good.
Baby, yeah.
And after that, you go. You have like. Because it moves all the stuff around. You have like massive diarrhea in the bathroom right up the hallway.
Even better. What a happy ending that is.
Platelet-rich plasma, pharmaceutical-grade nutrition supplements. Look, you're feeling kind of tired. You want like a B12 energy shot right in the tush. There you go. Or maybe you want a lipoline, like a fat burner. You take a shot in your other cheek. Groo, look. Hopefully this whole pandemic is going to end soon. And are you ready to make that change?
Very, very, almost, not really, but kind of.
Well, Groo, look, I guess New U Life Center is what you've been looking for. Please give them a call at 602-274-0068 or hit them up on their website, www.nuyu, that's N-U-Y-O-U, lifecenter.com. Look, they're doing all the COVID PPE. They got the mask. It's sterile. It's clean. It's a friendly environment. It's just like our favorite adult video store.
Closed down, by the way.
Well, which adult video news?
Yeah, it was on. Remember? No, it was Route 110 in Long Island. Remember?
Well, here's what I do remember as a kid, because you mentioned Hudson News had all the dirty magazines in the back section.
Right.
When you went into those early video stores, they always had the dirty videos. It was always in a back room, and you would walk through those swinging doors, and it would make like a humming, or like
yeah.
It would almost be like pervert.
Everybody in the store looks and knows that you're going back.
Yeah. You're like, sir, are you supposed to be back there? Are you 21? And I'd be like 16. I'd be like, yeah, I'm 20. Yeah, I'm 20. Yeah, I'm 21. And then my mother would go, Evan, are you over there?
I'm going to remind you of a funny story.
Go ahead.
That involves you and me in Times Square. No. We were hanging. We were meeting some friends that night. We were in our early 20s. You're a couple years older, so I think might not even have been 21 yet.
Okay.
But we went into one of those stores, and and this is going to sound very politically incorrect, but I'm telling a story that took place 25 years ago. All right, so you have to look at it that way. All right, so you and I we're looking at the fun stuff, and then somehow we realized we were looking at stuff that we didn't want to see, and we realized we were in the section that wasn't really meant for us, and I remember you and I just give a look at each other like, what do we do? Do we get out of here? Do we just play? Do we just play it off? And I don't remember what we did, but we were just, the look that we gave each other was like, are we supposed to be doing this, or are we not supposed to be doing this? What do we do here? And we were in the alternative lifestyle section. And we had to, and I think we took that as all right. Our reservation at Applebee's is in 5 minutes.
Well, you know what happens? You're so when you're young, you're like excited, titillated, and it's like almost like you're taboo. So you got so much momentum that you cross over that line of demarcation. And all of a sudden, it's almost like when Ripley walks into the nest in Alien.
Yes, that's exactly how. That's a perfect analogy.
Let me get the flamethrower.
Yeah, like it's okay to be in here, but I don't really belong.
I guess you got to kind of like put your head down and slowly sashay over into the our more. I don't know, the section that we felt more comfortable in. Let's just put it to you that way.
Yeah.
Well, look, Groo.
But there's nothing wrong with that. But we, at the time we were young and uneducated.
Right. Listen, tell Marie and Dr. Cynthia that Moody and Groo sent you and get 15% off your first service. That's 15% off. Thank you, new you.
All right.
Groo,
are they going to open up stuff on the other coast, or is it just in Arizona right now?
Say that again?
Are they going to open up places in anywhere else, or is it just in Arizona right now?
I mean, she's discussed possibly other locations in Arizona. I'm like, look, we're in a COVID crisis. Let's just solid out
COVID schmovid.
One location first. But she's at work today, and luckily, all kidding aside, business has been pretty good. She definitely has a loyal fan base, a loyal patients. Great. Dr. Cynthia, great doctor, and actually, she's an MD, and so a lot of these places don't
a
even
real
have a
doctor.
certified MD. Yeah, no, she's
nice.
a real doctor. You can go to her for temperature and everything else, but they do focus in on the cosmetic, fun stuff, if you will. All right, Groo, cue up the new single all year long. You ready to go? Because it's time for the Nothing Worthwhile Pandemic Special!
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Well, my friends, COVID has come. Mask and gloves and there's no fun. Stay at home, don't want no infection. When will this be over? Work from home, hands in my pants. Avoid the world at every chance. We are nothing worthwhile. Two losers, no talent. We'll take a donation. We are nothing worthwhile. Two losers, no talent. So sing this crappy song all year long. All year. All year long. All year. I say all year long. All year. All year long. All year. People rioting in the streets. Afraid to walk 'cause I'll get beat. Relationships, they end in defeat. When will this be over? Getting sick must head to the bowl. It's the Nothing Worthwhile Pandemic Special. We are nothing worthwhile. Two losers, no talent. So sing this crappy song all year long. All year. All year. All year long. All year. I say all year long. All year. Whoa. All year long. All year. Hey. Binge watching streaming days blend into one. Girlfriend is yelling, this ain't no damn fun. No interaction, I might go gay. Virtual meetings, Cal, God, take me away. Somebody come help me on now. Hey, shoot me, somebody come scoop me on up. Hey, kill me now, we're all doomed, so party on down. Hey, party, party. Oh, some dude just coughed up on me now. All year long. All year long. All year long. All year. I said all year long. All year long. All year. Everyone out of here. COVID is clearly here. All year long. I said everyone out of here. COVID is clearly here. All year long. Hey, feel better, feel Shooby dooby 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 da, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah. Yum, 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 yum.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Groo, that's our new.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, let them have their. You know, they want to idolize us. Yes.
Well, thank you for directing me. I can't hear what's the feed in your headphones. What a great job producing the show.
Who said I was a producer?
Are we ready to go?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've been waiting for it.
I had all these lines, and then I was so happy, and then now I'm just disgusted. The new Nothing Worthwhile single all year long. My girlfriend Marie heard it, and she laughed, and she said, "Listen, this could be a viral hit. You guys got to put it on YouTube." I had images of like us on Good Morning America with George Stephanopoulos going, "What was it's 2 million views?" And George, the inspiration for have like my mug sipping coffee, and then like legs
crossed, and a blazer on with a dress shirt opened up halfway down like that.
I wanted to delve into the pain and the psyche of America during this pandemic.
Yes, it's an allegory, really. The song is an allegory.
I looked on YouTube and it was like 20 views, a couple of like disparaging comments. I'm joking. But actually, this song is number 3 on the adult contemporary Who Gives a Shit, Who Gives a Fuck chart. It's sweeping the. Okay. Anyway, thanks, Groo. Really, way to layer the broadcast. Thank you. It's funny. I heard something today. I was in preparation for the podcast. I did my little workout, and I was showering up, and I was listening to our Bret the Hitman Hart podcast. And in the beginning, I announced that we're not going to do any more. I don't want to do top 5, top 10 podcasts. And you say, well, why? And I talk about why. And then you said something like, well, don't close the door on it yet. Maybe someday we could do, like a recommendation list. And I said, yeah, maybe like a pandemic special. And and I was like, oh, like how ironic as we now
pandemic special, you say?
Yeah, our Nothing Worthwhile pandemic special. So look, Groo, yet again, you're stuck at home with nothing worthwhile to do. So listen, myself and Groo have picked one old school and one new school TV show, movie, Howard Stern show segment, pro wrestling match, and music album to pass along the time staring at the wall. And again, for old school and new school, for old school, we said anything, before the year 2000, and as a general rule, the new school will be the year 2000 and beyond. We also have a wild card pick in which it did not make the final cut of our two choices, and we'll certainly give you our wild card and then of course we'll give you why we picked our old school and new school and wild card choices. But basically the premise is you got 5-6 hours, you're sitting home with nothing to do, and we're going to give you our picks for entertainment. So Groo, before we actually get to it, anything you have to add, anything on how you made your choices, or anything you want to add before we get to our actual picks?
I made my choices based on longevity, definitely in like the TV area. I wasn't gonna pick something that was on for like one season. I was gonna pick something that lasted a while. That's why you'll see that one of my picks actually straddles the 2000, started way before 2000 and is still going today. So I had that as my old school pick.
Straddles. Actually, a couple of my things were 2000s, and I made them my new school pick because it was the year 2000. So, of course, that's what was our definition. Of course, you blew through that and decided to just do whatever you wanted to do.
What do you mean?
Great. But
what did I just do?
Because I have a lot of my picks, new school, are centered around 2000 and slightly beyond. So
no, but what I was saying was one of my picks is one of my TV picks. My old school TV picks started way before 2000 and is still going today, but I used it as an old school pick. You understand what I mean?
Why are you giving a little Easter egg hint now?
It's not a hint. You asked what was
this guy. I say to him before we get on the air, let's do a great broadcast. Okay.
Well,
we'll talk over each other. Okay.
Well, all right. Let me ask you a question. Does that count as an old school pick then?
Yeah.
Because I do have something that I can replace it with if you want me to.
Before we made our choices, we wanted to define what was old school and new school. And for me, anything that was 2000 or beyond was a new school pick.
Right.
Which is ironic because you're talking about 20 years already, but that we're going back a whole bunch of years. So, with that being said, I have first listed television show. Are you comfortable starting off with TV?
I am perfectly fine with that.
All right. So usually I'll toss it to you first, not in picks. I usually toss it to you when we do our choice or top 5. So I'll throw it to you. How do you want to start? You want me to start? We'll go. We agreed to start with wild card.
Yes.
You set it up.
Okay. So maybe we'll do both. Maybe I'll do my wild card. I'll do my wild card and my 2 picks, and then you'll do your wild card and 2 picks. How's
let's do television show first.
All right, TV show. So my wild card. This was actually the old school pick until I realized that there was another one that I should pick instead. So my old school pick, my old school wild card is Taxi. You have 5 seasons of Taxi. Pretty much every episode is a classic. A couple of duds, but I've seen every single one of them. But it doesn't matter. One of the things I forgot to say when making this list, definitely things that I can rewatch over and over and over again. So Taxi is one of those things. But the old school pick had to be changed because I realized that there was one other one that I would rather have, definitely more content and covers more, and that would be my old school pick for the pandemic, Saturday Night Live.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Great choice.
Saturday Night
content.
A lot of content. Like I said, it straddles both time periods, but basically, you have the best of everybody. You got the best of Eddie Murphy, Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Maher. You got all the stars that we love, scattered throughout 40-something years of content, and you can. So that would. Not much more needs to be said about Saturday Night Live as far as that's concerned.
You got also great musical performances as well. So, that's interesting.
Covers a lot of ground.
It didn't even come to my mind because I almost see it as a comedy sketch or almost even like a variety show. But that's a great pick, man. You got a ton of content. I mean, if you're talking about actually with nothing to do, SNL's got a library that could kill literally months of time.
Exactly.
I mean, that's a great pick.
Exactly, and it's got all our favorites. So you can't beat that. So. Although I'm interested to hear yours. So my new school pick, it's not. I mean, I guess it's a new school pick. You're not going to like it, but or at least I don't think so. But my new school pick is The Big Bang Theory.
Okay.
And my reasoning behind this, I'm really just getting into it now, and I find myself laughing constantly. There are 11 seasons of this. So a lot of content, and basically it's one of those shows where really if you see one episode, you've seen them all, but they're still all really funny. So it's, it falls into the category of, lots of fun and plenty of content. Jim Parsons is just ridiculous as the main character. He's hilarious. The girls on the show are beautiful and funny. And the guest stars are incredible. Laurie Metcalf, who played the sister on Roseanne, she plays one of the characters' mothers. She is hysterical. Like every show is a winner. So yeah, The Big Bang Theory is my new school TV pick for the pandemic.
Big Bang Theory is a Gary Linker favorite. He could probably come on our podcast and give you every episode, and it's definitely a show that I've watched. I won't say I've committed to it. If it's on, I will watch it, and it's for me, it's sort of romanticizes nerd culture, and it kind of made being smart cool. And yes, I agree, it's well written. It's not clearly it's not my choice, but it's a very, very solid pick. If it's on, it's always enjoyable to me.
All right, I'm glad to hear that. All right, so Evan, your turn. Wild card TV show for the pandemic.
Well, before I get to it, because you mentioned some of your criteria.
Oh, okay.
For me, I looked at habits, viewership habits, just pure rote hours of watching something, and then what am I drawn to even during quiet time? Like when I'm sitting around with nothing to do, would I actually go back and watch this? Now, for many of my picks, they are. Some of my picks are not, because it's reflective of perhaps a time period. But I also wrote down your pick so we can go over them at the end, and you can certainly write down mine. But for my wild card pick, I'm sure you'll love this because I know you're a fan as well. This was probably the first show that I watched as a family unit. My mom, my brother, myself, my dad, when we were very young, and it opened me up to the world of the late night soap opera, and that would be my wild card was Dallas.
Oh! That was my wild card when Taxi was my main one. Dallas was my wild card, and then Saturday Night Live knocked it off. But that's a great call.
1978,
great call.
1978 to 1991. Great characters, ridiculous storylines, but somehow it introduced us to that late night soap opera where it's kind of acceptable to have ridiculous storylines. And I mean, the Ewing family was iconic. Introduced me to sort of Texas oil culture, and
great theme song.
We watched as a family, and the thing was, I remember as a kid, it was like one of those. I didn't like hanging out with my family much, but that Friday night Dallas.
Incredible!
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. So that was my wild card.
That was a triple threat lineup that night. That was Friday nights on CBS. You had like the Dukes of Hazzard, the Incredible Hulk, and then Dallas. Talk about a reason not to go out on Friday night.
Yeah, well, Dallas was clearly.
Evan, I love that you picked that. I have to say, I feel much closer to you. You having picked Dallas. I literally own every season on both DVD and streaming. That's how stupid I am. I can watch that anytime, anywhere.
Well, for old school, I really picked the first show that really was appointment television for me. I was a young kid, 12 years old, and I had to watch every episode.
What's happening?
And no. Come on. I actually gave thought to this. And that would be Cheers.
Ooh. That's like,
just great characters. Coach, Woody, Frasier, which actually spun off into a very successful show, and of course, just the romantic storylines that they had, with Sam, and it just was like that first show I remember that I was like, I can't miss it.
Yeah,
I can't miss it, and I think that was I think that was part of that Thursday, that early NBC when NBC
must see TV,
Yeah, like that sitcom block that they, and they
it had like Cheers and Seinfeld like on it. This like following.
Well, even
each other.
before that, it was the Cosby Show, Cheers, and then I think Family Ties. I loved Family Ties. I loved Cosby Show. I loved all the shows, but Cheers was like the cut above.
Let me ask you something about Cheers. Do you find the newer seasons the Kirstie Alley years? Do you find them funnier than the Shelley Long years? I do.
Well, listen, I can't sit there and say I did a comprehensive review, but I know I enjoyed the Kirstie Alley years just as much, actually, as I did the Sam and Diane years.
Yeah, okay.
Shelley Long. Yes, I did. I remember being really bummed when it was off the air. I remember watching Jay Leno had them on the Tonight Show. They were all drunk. And
I remember that was the finale night. Yeah.
Just great, really vivid characters. Norm, I don't want to go through the whole thing. That was for me as a young kid on my own. Like everybody's door in my house could be closed. I was watching Cheers 8:30 on Thursday nights on NBC.
Excellent pick. Excellent pick.
And I know I've mentioned my new school pick, and it's one that's fairly recent, but it was so strong. And I guess I kind of hate myself because I remember not being hip to the show initially and hearing people like in break room at the school talking about it, and I'm like, ugh. But I started to watch it, and it hooked me.
I think I know what it's going to be.
That would have to be my new school pick was Breaking Bad.
I knew it.
2008 to 2013. Better Call Saul, which is a spinoff, is so damn close, and it's got Bob Odenkirk, and I almost picked Better Call Saul because it's such an maybe even more interesting storyline with the character. But Breaking Bad, here's the deal. First season, slow, but it builds that great background story. And since then, it's been copped so many times. The white suburbanite going into crime and being over his head, and but I just super, super enjoyed it. I was late to the game. I watched it on Netflix. And really, once I made it past season 1 and season 2 and things started really rolling, I was really, really, really super hooked. I was not a big Bryan Cranston guy. And, I knew from him from the dad and Malcolm in the Middle, which is a very milquetoast role. And here, he's just phenomenal. And, even I don't even know the name, but the movie, the spin-off movie on Netflix, I watched right away with Jesse. And Better Call Saul, it was part of my wild card. Better Call Saul, The Office, and The Sopranos were right there for my wild card pick, but I went with Dallas. But anyway, Dallas is my wild card. Cheers, old school. Breaking Bad, new school. That's what I got.
And just about Breaking Bad, like I'm the only one I know who hasn't seen it, and I always avoided it. And to speak to your point, I actually started watching it like maybe a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and I couldn't get past halfway through the first episode. Okay. I know I will someday because I know it must be great because everybody says it's great. Like my dad says it's great, my brother says it's great, you say it's great. So obviously there's something that I'm missing. So I will eventually get to it. I just tried. Maybe I need to be in the mood.
Here's the deal. Let me tell you why. Mm-hmm. Because I think we're a lot alike, and we're a little different. And so what bothered me was, I'm like, all these people love this show. Like, I don't want to deal with and I do admit the first season is a little slow because they're layering it. But once you start getting into it and the offshoot storylines, I mean, for me, it was really, really great. So I had to kind of get over my bias because I'm like, my mom's talking about it. This can't be cool.
Yeah.
And,
well, that's Joe Blow. You don't want to be like, I'm not going to be like the bandwagon guy.
Some Joe Blow at the water cooler at the school is. I don't. But once I kind of shed all that and just started watching it, And yes, the first season's a little slow, but they're really laying the groundwork. It's great.
Maybe I know too much about it already, but I'm definitely gonna try again.
Okay, Groo. My next category I have is movies. You want to hit up movies?
Okay.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah. Why don't you go? Why don't you do yours first?
All right. Let me get a little sippy of H2O.
What's in the drink there?
To wet the whistle. All right, Groo. My wild card, and I've definitely mentioned. You're not going to get a lot of surprises here. I think I've mentioned all three of these movies in podcasts. My wild card pick for movies: 1986 Aliens. Simply put, to me, if not the best, probably the second best or the third best sequel of all time. I did not see Alien. I saw Aliens first, and what I love about the movie...
You've seen Aliens since, though, right?
Of course.
Yeah, okay.
But what Cameron did in taking it from a sort of a claustrophobic space horror movie into full-blown action genre, and it's just 40. If you can get through that 47 minutes, then it's nonstop. And
I think the setup is great in that movie.
And then Cameron is really the quintessential, for me, old school movie director. I mean, I know he's done some stuff 2000s and beyond, but
right.
80s, 90s, he's just full of, and that would take me to my old school choice, which is obviously The Terminator, 1984. I got to think about when I walked out of the movie theater. I was blown away. And yes, you watch it today and the special effects are a little grimy, and but I mean, there is in that performance the makings of a decent actor in Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yes,
absolutely.
I'm going to say it. He plays
definitely. Are you kidding?
Really, really, really well. And the Sarah Connor and the storyline with John Connor, and it's essentially again a chase movie, but it's really fucking
scary.
Awesome the way they do it.
Scary.
And again, 13 years old. Parents divorced. Dad picks me up on a Sunday to go to the mall for a boring, dad visit, and I remember being
we're gonna
transfixed.
Go see an R-rated movie today. Don't tell me.
It's not necessarily the pacing is just nonstop, and you're like a little kid. You want to have a heart attack, and it was really different. Maybe perhaps the movie is very minutely not aged well, but The Terminator for me. Now, New School was a little bit harder. I had to really think about what movie really blew me away. And I've mentioned this, I think, before. And again, I don't know if it's on my greatest movies list or anything, but this movie changed my opinion of the lead actor.
Mm-hmm.
The lead actor I was not a fan of. He represented, again, middle America acting, and he was a very popular actor.
Can you tell me who it is, and maybe I can guess what your pick is?
Go ahead.
No, can you tell me who the actor is, and maybe I can guess?
Tom Hanks.
All right, and this is a New School pick?
Yes, but it's right around that 2000 time.
All right, so, I've got it. I've got the pick in my head. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to ruin your reveal.
Right, well,
so I've got the pick in my head.
And the storyline's slightly ridiculous, but the delivery, I felt like I was there, and that's Castaway.
That's what I had. 2 for 2 with you. Nice.
And again, I don't know. Maybe there's better movies, and there's probably movies I liked more. But let me just tell you real quick. It really changed my opinion of Tom Hanks because he was like this, bosom buddy, dad. He was in very very safe movie roles, and I'm not saying Castaway is dangerous, and it's kind of a silly storyline in the sense of a guy crash lands on an island and he's stuck, but the time delivery, Zemeckis, and even the scenes of him trying to start a friction fire, I was transfixed.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
And there's a lot of inside meanings to the movies, but it doesn't hit you over the head over it, and it's not like ostentatious. It's just themes of time and relationships and isolation, and even the whole analogy of him being a boss at FedEx, where time is of a premium. And again, I'm sure there's better movies, but Wilson and The Finger and The Blood. I just walked away having a really great respect for Tom Hanks, and have been much more of a fan since then. So Aliens, Terminator, and Castaway, you got a couple of hours to kill. I think you can't go wrong with those 3 picks.
You can't.
But I am excited to hear my boys' picks. So
well,
Groo,
first I want to respond.
thoughts?
First, I want to respond to the Hanks thing. Castaway is an absolute classic, but I'm interested because you say that Castaway changed your opinion of Tom Hanks, but think of the couple things that came before that.
Go ahead.
You had Saving Private Ryan. You had what's the other one? Oh, it's so great I can't remember it. The Green Mile, which I actually think is his best performance. But you also had like Forrest Gump. You had Philadelphia. I mean, he was a bona fide superstar at that point. It really took all the way up to Castaway, which I think was in 2000 or 99 or 2000.
Well, look,
that really.
Well, hold on.
It took you that long,
I've seen all those movies, and all those movies you mentioned I've really liked. As a matter of fact, I think I have Forrest Gump on one of my. But I saw Forrest Gump as more sort of a farcical, long history piece, so to speak. Let me just say this. Maybe it's as simple as he wasn't like a handsome leading man here. They put him on the weight change. He showed a lot of chops. There was a lot of physical acting in the movie. It wasn't even a lot of dialogue.
Okay.
And it took a storyline that was a little bit, I won't say ridiculous, because I'm assuming it could happen. Certainly there's a bunch of television shows that have sort of mimicked, being stuck in the desert or the forest without any tools, and they have all these shows now where they But look, I'm not saying I didn't like Tom Hanks, but maybe it's just the griminess of the movie. I had a deeper appreciation. So yeah, I guess so.
All great reasons, and yes, you can't. Although I'm not sure I'd in the middle of a pandemic I'd want to watch Castaway, but that's
it's such a great. I mean,
no. But I'm saying just the theme of it is just being stranded. Like I don't want to be reminded of the peril that we're in, but as far as the quality, you can't go wrong with it.
Well, I mean, the notion was you're stuck at home for a couple hours.
Yeah.
You got time to kill. Okay, I mean, I don't want to get into all the deep.
No. But I get it, and I was blown away by Castaway as well. Not as much as Bachelor Party, but we'll go over there in a second. All right,
what? Let me give you. Can I just tell you my favorite scene in Bachelor Party? My absolute favorite scene is when he goes to visit his sister-in-law, who's a proctologist.
Oh,
and
God.
she's got the guy with the cheeks, and she goes to hug him with the 2 gloves, and he's holding her hands. And Wendy Jo Sperber, who is again a very classic lady.
Well, she's the wife of his brother. He was going to visit his brother, who's the doctor. Yeah.
Yes. That's my favorite scene. And real quick, before you get to the second favorite scene is the dumb guy who plays the waiter, who's going. The guy says, "I like chicken parmesan," and he goes, "Parmigiana, it's cheese, which gives me mucus and phlegm," and the guy is like totally grossed out.
See, the one that makes me laugh all the time is towards the beginning when Hanks and Adrian Zemed are taking the baby pictures with the woman with the big tits. It's really funny.
Yes.
And that's probably the first and last time we'll ever mention Adrian Zemed in a podcast. But great lost underrated guy from the 80s. Anyway. All right, so now I'm going to give you my movies here, and you got to remember I'm making these because when I'm stuck inside, I want things that are going to make me feel something,
Okay.
So I've got one that makes me excited, I've got one that makes me laugh, and I got one that makes me cry. All right? The wild card is the one that enthralls me, and it's Return of the Jedi. This is a movie that... I won't even say it's my favorite Star Wars movie because it isn't. Empire is. But Return of the Jedi is the one that I can sit and watch at any moment, anywhere, no matter what I'm feeling, because it's just a nonstop thrill ride. And it brings me back to when I first saw it, which was at camp on a rainy day. They took us to that old wooden, crummy movie theater in Hancock, and that was the first time any of us had ever seen it. It had just come out. And we all saw it together. Saw it with all my camp friends, and I remember screaming at the Vader face turn, and just like this movie just brings a lot out of me. So Return of the Jedi is my wild card. What do you think of that?
Well, you said it. Empire's a better movie. So if I'm dipping into the Star Wars, I'm going Empire Strikes Back.
But don't you feel... Well, don't you feel like... Because Empire is very deep and very... Empire's like the Temple of Doom. Both of our favorites of Indiana Jones are Temple of Doom, right? We've spoken about that.
I'm not a huge fan of the Indy series.
No,
but
my point is
my favorite. Yes.
Right. But if you ask me, which Indiana Jones would I want to watch over and over again in a pandemic, the answer would probably be Last Crusade, because it's fun, it's exciting, it's happy, it's comical in ways, and that's what I love about Return of the Jedi. So that's how I see this one. But it wasn't strong enough to make my top old school. I'll tell you what was, though, which I'm interested to hear your opinion on this, because it's definitely not. It's not even a good movie, but it's still one of our favorites, and it's Caddyshack. It's Caddyshack. And the reason is because this is a movie that I can watch anytime and laugh uncontrollably at jokes that I am so familiar with that I can quote the entire movie from beginning to end, but it doesn't matter because you've got Chevy Chase at his best, you got Rodney Dangerfield tearing it up, you got Ted Knight coming out of nowhere and stealing the movie, you got Bill Murray, and then you got just shenanigans, and it's just an enjoyable hour and a half that I can watch over and over and over again and not get bored. So Caddyshack is my old school pick here.
So I think it's interesting, the juxtaposition of our two choices, because Andy's looking at it it's like when he says Caddyshack, I felt like the visual of a soft blanket on the couch, and it's like hanging out with like some good friends.
Yeah. And
ironically enough, I didn't listen much to Howard this last week because he's off, but they had the 2014 interview with Bill Murray on, and wasn't as much as Howard. I was interested, and they did talk about Caddyshack, and Bill Murray, and again, I don't remember all the specifics, but he did riff on it. So listen, can't go wrong with Caddyshack. To me though, when Andy's talking about it, I'm getting a visual of like an old friend, on the couch, blanket, and Doritos, soda, and just having a great mindless kind of time to kill.
Life is good.
A good hour and a half, 2 hours.
Exactly.
So yeah, I have no problem with it. Caddyshack's a great comedy.
All right, good. All right, so at my new school, you probably will have a problem with this. This is from 2004. It's a sports movie, and it really gets me in the feels, as they say, and I can watch it at any point and love it for so many different reasons, and that is a little movie called Miracle. I knew you wouldn't like it, but this movie just it's I don't know. I've talked about it before. It's just, I know a lot of people will hate me for this, but I think it's still my favorite sports movie just because it does so many things so right. And to me, the best thing that you can do as a movie maker is create tension when the audience knows how it's going to end. Like, we know that they win, but you're still sitting on the edge of your seat. And it's still emotional, even and there are other movies like it, like Rudy is like that. We know exactly what's going to happen, but it still hits us. But Miracle, they just pulled off a miracle with that movie. I didn't think it was going to be any good, and this is one of my family's favorite movies too. We love watching this, and Miracle would be my new school pick. Yeah.
Yeah. Ironically enough, when I listened this morning to the Bret the Hitman Hart podcast, you had given me homework to watch Miracle. Ironically enough, it's funny you mentioned that, and I give you my opinion, which was, to me, it's a fine movie if you want a Disney insert inspirational speech here, insert key player gets checked and hurts knee, and it's fine. But to me, that's it. It's just fine. It's just and I'm surprised. I'm surprised because you're a guy who's a more nuanced viewer that, again, I think I mentioned Remember the Titans. To me, it's no different. It's, insert inspirational scene here, great message. Oh, high school black kids and white kids can get together, great, under the tutelage of a coach. It's just a little bit of layer too much with the schmaltz. And again, to me, if I want a sports movie, and we've discussed, but I'm going Rocky. I'm going something more in that vein that just felt a lot more real to me or organic. Miracles is a fine movie. There's nothing. I do even say on the podcast, the hockey scenes are second to none. I mean, they're great. It feels like I'm watching an NHL game. But as a pure movie, to make it on a list where I'm saying watch it or top. No.
Well, look, this whole thing. I mean, these aren't our favorites. These are what we would take with us. If you got to remember, everything that's on this list are things we're going to have to look at more than once.
Understood, but you're okay, and I don't have a problem with it. You're saying basically, I'm watching it in a pandemic. I want a feel good kind of vibe from the entertainment choices that I picked, at least early on. My thing is, I didn't look at it quite that way. I got a block of time. What have I watched over the course of my life that I'm drawn back to, or have just wrote hours of watching? Now, it's not for all of them. But again, it's just look, it's a difference of opinion.
Everything on my list for everything qualifies under what you just said. What are things that keep drawing me back? And every single thing that's on my list that I've mentioned and that I will mention fall into that category. So,
I'm fine with that. I mean, Miracle is a good movie. But that's all it is to me.
Okay.
I wouldn't have it on anything, any kind of list or anything like that. But I know you're a big fan of the movie.
Yeah.
And so, all right, that's good. Good for you. Good for you.
All right. So now,
Groo,
go ahead.
Let me throw the next one to you. I think this will be a good transition. I think you'll like this one. Next on my list is the Howard Stern Show segment.
Mm-hmm.
You ready for that?
I am.
All right.
You want me to go or you? Who goes first here?
I think it's your turn, but I don't care. I mean, what do you want to do?
I'll go. We'll keep it. Keep it real. Okay.
Andrew, let me hear your wild card first for the Howard Stern Show segment.
This one was actually the easiest one. Wild card was the 9/11 show.
Interesting. Great choice, though. Great choice.
For some reason, it reminds me of why we listen to Howard. We've always listened to Howard in the first place, because the way he handles everything with his interaction with everybody in the studio as their experience. I remember listening to it live, and as we're all experiencing this thing, live. It brings me back, and it's weird to say, but I do enjoy listening to it. Just seeing how he, I remember I remember the interview with Crazy Cabby, who was like standing on his roof, and I just remember it's really something that whole show. So that's my wild card.
Old school. Switch this up? Hold on. Do you want to switch this up and you want to go one at a time? Like,
okay.
I feel like Stern. Because I wanted to comment, because I think that's a great pick, and my pick was different, but I think you'll appreciate it. And it's not necessarily a segment that I go back to so many times, but I thought about what segment really shows the spontaneity, the chaos, the meanness of Howard in the 90s. And I love your pick, because I was teaching, and I had my radio. I was in Florida, and it was the 105. I had it just barely audible, and I kept on going back to my desk and trying to hear something, and it was chaos at the school. I mean, principal had sent out an email, nothing to TVs are not to be turned on, and
pretend nothing is happening. Yeah, great idea.
Well, Andrew,
I understand.
I do agree at the time with you're an administrator. You don't want chaos happening at your schools. You're trying to
chaos is great.
Protect kids from. Well, yeah, that's because you've never sat in that position, and and then you could, as you like to do, just second guess the boss. So
I love to do that.
I understand that. The funny thing is, I'm trying to give like real kind of feedback and emotion, and he just wants to shit all over it. What a dick. All right. Well, I really thought about. Are you ready, or should you want to just go and then I'll goof? All right.
I want your wild card.
My wild card was a segment that was just phenomenal to me, and it had me on the edge of my seat, and that is the Cleveland funeral from 1994. Ooh. WMMS cut the wires on Howard's broadcast, and they threw Howard and the crew into a limo, and he just broadcast over a cell phone, one of the early cell phones. And I remember, but again, I was transfixed to the radio the same way I was to your 9/11 show, just for different reasons. I'm like, I'd never heard anything like this in my life. You had competitors cutting wires. You had intrigue. You had him just shitting on the local talent in Cleveland. Those funerals were just so much fun to listen to, and they were mean. Yeah, they were mean. They were
great.
Mean. And again, the chaos and Howard, the brilliance of Howard, and I do believe it's Howard in this instance, to take an instance where you could be like, oh my God, this just got completely squashed, and using whatever technology is there to continue broadcasting. And Howard is at his most defiant, arrogant best. He's in the limo with the whole crew, and he's not gonna, we've been sabotaged by WMMS, and all of a sudden it's almost guerrilla radio at this point. And I wanted to. This may not be the one that I go to the most, but to me it's like so representative of the mid '90s. You had the full crew, Jackie, Billy, Stutterman, Robin, and it's just chaotic, and how Howard's able to spin it into really a great broadcast. So my pick was the Cleveland funeral.
Great pick, and I remember loving it, but I don't remember enough about it, like specifics, to really comment much. Other than I know it's a great pick because it still resonates.
And I think your pick was phenomenal. So you want me to go first on the old school?
Okay, go ahead.
All right, we'll switch it up. To me, this one was easy, and I know you're going to know it. To me, it's the quintessential Howard segment. I was on the edge of my radio, and again, it's all over the place. It's caring, it's emotional, it's goofing, and it set forth a legendary segment that they go back to time and time again. And my pick for old school Howard Stern show segment, 1999, the Gary Love tape. Hello. And to me, there's so many great segments in the 90s. It's so hard to pick, and I'll be very curious to hear Andy's pick. But I mean, it just puts Baba Booey as a character on legendary status. And again, the brilliance and the meanness of Howard to get his guy to expose himself like that. And then they brought in fans for a viewing, and even the fans were funny. The guys that they brought in had great, and Jackie with the laughter in the background, and Fred and Robin goofing on, when Robin's goofing on you, get it.
You're in
and it's
trouble.
just, again, I know Andy knows the segment inside and out. There's no need to belabor it, but they go back to it literally once a week. I mean, they hello, and it's just an incredible.
I didn't just lose a lover; I lost a friend, lost my best friend.
Memes and catchphrases, and so my old school pick, 1999, the Gary Love tape.
Great pick. You said it all. My old school pick is neither of these actually should surprise you, because I've mentioned both of these clips as some of my favorites of all time. But this old school one, I just have to give you a tiny little backstory. You remember when I went to Israel for several months?
Yes.
There were a couple nights where, honestly, I really didn't know if I was going to survive. We got ourselves into a little bit of trouble, and literally I had my Sony Walkman, and I had the Stern show that has this clip on it, on this tape, and I was listening to it over and over again just to keep me sane. And I still love it today, and I can't find the tape, but some parts of it are available online. But this is the first appearance on the Howard Stern show of the great William Shatner. His first appearance on the show from 1994, promoting, I believe it was Star Trek Generations, the crossover movie, but it was right on the. It was I think the day of or the day before the gubernatorial election in New York that Howard had previously been running for as a libertarian. Literally right before Shatner, George Pataki had called in, and then I think the next day he won the governorship. So Howard was on fire, like he really was, and Shatner came in to respond to the week before when George Takei had made his first appearance and ripped Shatner apart. So Shatner comes on, and he doesn't really rip George Takei apart. He's just funny. He's so natural, and he even gets involved in the live commercials and actually screws them up, and it's hilarious. And just their interplay, the chemistry between Howard and Shatner is just so palpable, and it's a great show. But that segment is one that I would, if I had to pick one Howard Stern segment to listen to for the rest of my life, it would be that. William Shatner's first.
Is that the one? Is that where they go into the
No,
homo
no,
room
that's the third. That was the third appearance. Remember, he wouldn't take people into the homo room until the third appearance. This was the first time they met. They literally meet for the first time, and it's an absolute. Billy West calls in as George Takei and actually fools Shatner for like a minute or two, and it's an absolute laugh riot. It's great. I know you've heard it. You'd probably just not as much as I've heard it.
William Shatner is just is a national treasure in my book. The guy is just self-effacing and doesn't take himself too seriously, and he's a great guest. He's probably best utilized on the Stern Show, but
it's been a while, hasn't it? It's been a long time.
Yeah,
I think.
I think how old is William Shatner now?
He's in his mid to late 80s.
Yeah, it's got to be.
But his first appearance is an absolute classic. All right, so now
Drew,
maybe
why don't you take the next one? Why don't you go first on your Howard Stern Show New School segment?
Yes, and this one that you and I have talked about. And this one actually doesn't really involve Howard that much. This involves Artie, and it's when they had Wilmer Valderrama in the studio. And Howard would ask Wilmer about his girlfriends, and every girlfriend he's had is was at the time like a major star. And Artie would always pipe in with "Are you kidding me? He didn't know who this kid was." So he's like, "Who the hell are you?" It's this little, Artie. He was like, it's this little Hispanic kid talking, and then he'd be like, tell me, Howard be like, tell me about when you dated Mandy Moore. He's like, well, when me and Mandy, we went out and I didn't have a condom, and then Artie just pipes in, wait, you fucked Mandy Moore? And then 2 minutes later, it's like, well, when Lindsay called me and she wanted me to come up, wait, you fucked Lindsay Lohan? Like every single one. They're listing, and this guy has a body count. It's unbelievable. But Artie is representing us. Like, he's sitting there, big, out of shape bastard, jealous, and what the hell? He even made some cracks about him coming to this country and taking all our women, stuff that would never fly today. But that interview with Wilmer Valderrama and Artie's contribution to it is my favorite new school clip, and I think that was it had to be after 2004. Because I remember listening to it. I remember listening to it for the first time in my car in Tribeca on my way to work for Harvey Keitel, and I started with him in 2004. So it had to be after that. But yeah, that's my new school pick. Do you remember it?
Well, my new school, I was washing dishes at the McDonald's. Look at this guy. I was in Tribeca.
Just because I don't remember exactly when it was, but I know the time period it's got to be in because I remember. That's why it's so strong for me, because I remember where I was when I heard it. That says something.
I was sitting in a cafe with Bobby De Niro and Harvey Keitel, and anyway,
cheap heat.
Well, listen, my new school. Yeah, talk about king of putting himself over on this podcast. My new school pick also involved Artie, but for a different reason. Because all seriousness, this one I looked at a little different with Howard Stern, because he's got such a massive library of content, and you mentioned something that was key when this stuff could fly. So I thought about Artie and, the Stern Show today. I had some thoughts, perhaps the first Paul McCartney interview, because I remember being like, that was the first super A-list guest, and I was like, uh-oh, like maybe this is the point of no return. But for me, and it's not one that I would say is enjoyable, but reflective of the Stern Show when things really changed forever, would be the 2009 Artie versus Teddy fight.
Ooh,
and
good one.
Because Artie was pretty much on the way down, and things really never changed for Howard again. Howard would like to tell you that the show's only gotten better. Andy and I have obviously different opinion, but Artie. Listen, as Groo said, Artie brought a everyman, common man sort of vibe to the show, and this is when Howard had changed. Private Parts, he talked about being faithful to your wife, going to work every day. And then all of a sudden, after like 2000s, after his movie, was Nobu and Hamptons. And he still had a very Howard's not gone off the deep end, at least at that point.
Yeah.
And, it's just, again, it's sort of that last era of complete chaos. Artie wasn't every man, but he had a lot of demons, and his demons got to him on that broadcast. And I remember knowing this was a big deal because I think I tuned in like 103, which was like Opie and Anthony, and they were talking about it.
Yeah.
Or their post-game show. Like other DJs, other radio outlets, other media outlets were talking about how crazy intense that fight was. And as it turned out, the Stern Show never really was the same again. So it's not really an enjoyable broadcast, but it's like one for the archives for me. Yes, that's probably a better.
And you can see it, and it's on film too. You can see it on TV.
Yeah,
you can see the clip, which gives it a whole new level of awkwardness.
Yes. So let me just summarize. A Stern Show. Wild card, Groo went with the 9/11 show, wonderful. Moody went with the Cleveland funeral. For the old school segment, Moody went the Gary Love tape, 1999. Groo did 1994, first appearance of William Shatner. And for Howard Stern Show New School, Groo did 2004, Wilmer Valderrama and Artie's fascination with his long line of girlfriends. And Moody went 2009, and probably the last one of the last times Artie really was on the show was the Artie versus Teddy fight. So that's good. I want to do a summation. It's good to hear the different choices.
Yeah,
that's really good. I enjoy hearing your picks.
Yeah, me too. I enjoy hearing my picks as well. I mean, what?
Okay.
No, I'm fascinated by yours because literally there's nothing that you've listed so far, with the exception of Breaking Bad, only because I haven't seen it, that I can argue with. I can't, although I do think we're going to fight over the next two.
Well, I'm going to do a pro wrestling match.
Okay.
And so I'll go first with my wild card.
Okay.
And I'm going to write down your choices as you give them as well, and we'll summarize it before we go to our final category, which is music album. You had mentioned on a prior podcast, what was the last time that you were really surprised, Moody? Because we've talked about the proliferation of websites and spoilers and things that have really hurt wrestling fandom, moving on, in the mid-2000s on. So, and I don't think you'll be surprised by my wild card pick, but I thought about this, and I said this was the last time I didn't know which way they were going to take it. And my wild card wrestling match would be 2011 Money in the Bank, John Cena versus CM Punk. It's a great match. It's a great storyline. It makes me appreciate John Cena that much more because he's probably right around his prime. He's probably got a good 5 or 6 years after that. He sells for CM Punk. You got the Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis run-in, and CM Punk wins in Chicago. The fans are going bonkers. His contract is legitimately up at midnight. You have no idea where they're gonna take it, and they did okay with it. They could have done so much more, but for the pure match and the circumstances involving it, my wild card pick was John Cena versus CM Punk. 2011 Money in the Bank.
Great call.
Groo, thoughts, and then your pick.
Actually, it's a great call, and it's making me want to rewatch it.
You'll enjoy it.
Yeah,
it's
I
good.
know I will.
It's good.
And I've seen it, but I haven't seen it in a while. Great pick. Excellent pick. You're not going to like mine.
All right, my friend.
Actually, you might like my wild card, but you'll hate my old school. But my wild card pick from, I want to say 2002 is WrestleMania, Hogan versus The Rock. The stakes in that match were just so incredibly high. The audience reaction pretty much made that match. It's one of Hulk Hogan's best performances in the ring. Really, it is. Shockingly so. The Rock really brought something out of him that night. They went at it. They knew how to tell the story. They knew how to work the crowd. The crowd, towing the line between who's the face and who's the heel, and how it went. The match really went from point A to point B, and then what followed it. Hogan Rock is an absolute classic, and it's still one that gives me like goosebumps when I see it in full context. So that's my wild card. Hogan versus The Rock.
Are you just going to give me 3 Hulk Hogan matches for your wrestling picks?
No. But no.
No.
There might be another one in there, but not 2 other ones. Not 2 other ones. I promise that. But yeah, Hogan Rock is my wild card.
Okay. Well, that's the first of many choices by Andy for Hulk Hogan. Although I will cop to, I have in my office the WrestleMania 3 nostalgia shirt hanging up in my office in a school district, no less. And when I do have families and kids, it's a great conversation piece.
Well, speaking of WrestleMania 3,
well, me too. So you want to go first? Want me to go first with new school, old school?
Why don't you go old school?
Well, it would be my turn. All right. So I'll go first with old school. And this match was the first time this changed how I viewed professional wrestling. And that would be WrestleMania 3, the Macho Man versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Mm-hmm. And I could see by Groo, he's like, what a douchey pick.
What are you talking about? It's still my pick is the greatest match of all time.
Well,
but that doesn't mean it's gonna be my pandemic.
Can I give you my thoughts?
Sure. Go ahead. I'm waiting for you to give you the thoughts, and you just.
All right. Well, I had never up at that point as a WWF fan, you were conditioned to watching big guys lumber in the ring, muscle heads, behemoths, fat guys no less, giants. That was what Vince McMahon we know is a fan of, and as a in the late '80s, early '90s, even the early '80s. I mean, that's what you were conditioned to watch:
right.
Big, muscular, or big guys. And this is the first match I really remember being like, "Oh my God, these guys are a little bit smaller. They're not tiny, but they're not 6'5".
Right.
And I remember being, in a sense, turned on by the speed of the match. They made a scientific wrestling match look cool and interesting. So many false finishes, which has been so overused now. But at the time, what did they say? What did Macho kick out of like 16? 2 counts.
Yeah, but they weren't. All right, well, keep going because I want to speak to that because false finishes these days are like the guy will hit his finisher and then his opponent will kick out.
I just said busy to talk.
No, but this wasn't like that. This was just random, like body slam pin. That's why I like it better.
If you had listened, I had said it's completely overused now. But at that moment in 1987, 16-year-old Evan Moody I'd never seen a match like that. Guys speeding around the ring, high flying, mat wrestling. 2 counts. It just was a very, very exciting match, and it opened my eyes to when the Bret the Hitman Harts and the Shawn Michaels came into prominence, those kind of guys. I really think it opened the door. I really don't understate it. I really think that match opened the door for smaller, more normal-ish size guys to make their headway in the WWF. And Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat, Mania '87, changed how I viewed. Like I could watch. I didn't have to watch Hulk Hogan and King Kong Bundy.
Right.
I could watch smaller guys with a faster work rate and really, really enjoyed it. And that's where the key is for me as a viewer. I had never seen something quite like that on WWF television on a big stage. So
right.
I'll toss it to you.
Yeah, I can't argue with it because it's, as I said, it's still my pick as the best wrestling match I've ever seen. But again, I'm going back to the pandemic idea of this and what I'm going to take with me, and one that I can, to watch that match takes a lot of investment because of the kind of match it is. But yeah, when I first saw it, and even when I see it today, it's still just as exciting. But one that I can watch more often just because of what it was and what it still is and what it represents is Hogan Andre. I just love seeing the build up. I love seeing the actual match, like when he knocks him down for the first time and then he hulks up. I mean, yes, it's thoroughly predictable and completely, but it's everything that Hulkamania was supposed to be, and it just brings back just a flood of memories of when everything was perfect with the WWF. But yeah, Hogan Andre is my pandemic old school match, and I knew you'd be upset, but that's
just
my pick. But
it's
remember,
a great event. Hold on, let me comment?
Yeah,
it's
go
a
ahead.
Great event. It's really not a great match. Look, I mean,
It's
I'm
not
not
a great
deny
match.
It's you want the floor now, Andy?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it's a great match.
No. Continue.
Well, I think you've said you're a Hogan mark. I think you're clouded by it a little bit. Look, there's no denying the historical importance of Hogan Andre, but to me, I was drawn more to the Savage Steamboat match. I mean, if you're talking about pick one match from Mania 3, I mean, to me, it's no doubt. I'm going Macho Dragon. But look, Hogan Andre. I mean, it's like historical relevance. It's like Abraham Lincoln as your 16th president. There's real historical relevance to the match.
And it's still. No, I agree. I agree. That's a great analogy, and. Yeah, and I think, all right, so now I'll go with my new school, and I think I screwed up because I don't think this is why I needed to start doing research. I don't think this was 2000. I think it might have been the year before, but you'll tell me because you'll know it. But it would be Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, the Hell in the Cell from WrestleMania.
Bad Blood?
Yeah, that one.
Hold on. Mania was 2000. I mean, they fought twice in Mania, but the first time
it was the first one. It was the first one between Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. I don't think it was 2000.
That might be 97, 98, somewhere in there.
So would you count it?
Great job. Great research. Great research.
Well, I'm still counting it because it's anything with wrestling. Anything past the Attitude Era is pretty much new school. I would say. Do you agree with that?
Well, it is attitude. It is Attitude Era, but it would be nice if you actually invested some time. This goes back to even he puts on Facebook our YouTube song, and then he puts "Stay tuned tomorrow." Maybe where's the commitment to the show? I'm spending
you didn't
hours
see the joke.
I'm writing songs.
You didn't see the joke. You didn't see the joke. The joke was, well, it's a pandemic special, so we might not be alive. I mean, that's the joke.
Well, how would I know that? You put maybe. Everything with him is read between the lines. That's even when he said that question like, this guitarist may have, and I'm like, I'm thinking literally May. And he's like, oh, it's Brian May. And I'm like, oh my God, what a douche question. So
I remember that. That was funny.
Look, I will say this.
Yeah.
That pick, beyond you not following our criteria, that pick, I will say this about the Bad Blood match. Number one, it's the first time I believe they used a Hell in a Cell, which is actually really an innovative kind of violent idea. As a fan, I remember. I'll tell you this much: as a WWF guy, it's a violent match. It's like a little bit more violent than we're used to, even in the Attitude Era. I mean, Shawn is gushing blood everywhere. We know that there are more violent matches after that. And of course, you cannot deny it's probably the single greatest introduction of a new character in Kane. So you got a lot of cool stuff happening with the match. And of course, then I think the other third thing would be the crazy table spot that Michaels does, off of the cage. It is a great match. Listen, I'm not criticizing. I wish you would have picked following our time element, but as a pure match, I mean, if you had like 45 minutes to kill, you can't go wrong with that pick. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Well, maybe at the beginning of next week's show, I'll have a current match for you.
It'll be like, next week we're supposed to talk about the Eagles reuniting. He'll be like, when Roger Waters and David Gilmour. I'm like, Groo, it's the Eagles. Oh, this wasn't Pink Floyd?
Touche. All right, so your new school.
You're going to love my pick for new school because it is 2002, The Rock versus Hulk Hogan.
The first one we've actually agreed on. I like it.
Yeah, that's and I'll say this. I almost picked Cena versus Punk, and the Undertaker Shawn Michael matches at Mania. I was at one live. You can't go wrong. And again, Groo's going to take it from a Hulk Hogan centric kind of. To me, it's the greatest piece of business maybe at WrestleMania. To pull off sort of the two greatest stars of their era. I think which I've always said, it anoints The Rock as the biggest star of all time in the WWE. I mean, you could talk about Stone Cold. I say he's had the hottest run, but when you look at that and see what this guy's done since in terms of acting, I mean, The Rock changed everything. And yes, the fact that in midstream these two guys are so good that they kind of did a double switch, face heel. And yes, I don't know if I would call it, I don't know if Hulk Hogan it's not a great match, but this is why I've argued for Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan. They're such big personalities, and the psychology is so strong with both of these guys that, they take it out of the ring. I mean, they're able to fill in, and, no one's going to look at The Rock. Even The Rock at that point, he's not a great scientific wrestler, but the personalities and the characters are so big. And, it's just Hogan is on this massive nostalgia wave that they don't really even identify up until the match. He's NWO, but they're begging for old school Hogan with the posing and the hands and the ripping of the shirt. And these guys recognize it so quickly and kind of cut bait and take the match in a different direction. And The Rock wins, and he should have won, but the way they did it, and it's just and it's maybe Hulk Hogan's last great gasp in the ring before, he gets a little too old. Although I did love Hogan McMahon the next year for different reasons. But I mean, if there's a we call it pro wrestling, but we're WWE guys. We'll always be. We'll watch some other stuff, but we're going to watch the network. And if I had to say the one match that represents the WWE, WWF, and the greatest piece of business at Mania, it's The Rock and Hogan.
I've already said everything about it that I feel because it was my pick. It was actually my wild card pick, but I'm very pleased that I wonder. I have a question for you. I wonder, do you think that his Hulk out in that match was planned?
Yes.
So, sure. Because he went into the match as a heel.
Well, I mean, he's always, Hulk, he's hulked up. I don't know. Was he, when he was NWO, did he not?
Not really. He didn't know. He didn't do that because no. So that's, I'm interested in that. Maybe I'll ask Bruce.
Perhaps.
I wasn't there.
Perhaps.
But I'm very happy that you picked that one. That's really cool. Great stuff.
All right, let's summarize pro wrestling wild card. Moody said Cena Punk 2011. Groo said 2002. Mania Hogan Rock. Old school. We both said 1987. Groo went Hogan Andre Mania 3. Moody said Savage versus Steamboat Mania 3. And then New School, Groo said, I think it's 97 or 98, Bad Blood, Taker versus Shawn Michaels, Hell in a Cell. And Moody went with a match, WrestleMania X8 2002, The Rock versus Hulk Hogan. And that takes us to our final category for the Pandemic Special. It is the music album. And Groo, I guess it's my turn. You want me to do my wild card first?
Go for it.
Go for it.
Well, we've agreed on one thing out of all the things, and that's Hogan and Rock, and I think it'll end there because there's no way in hell you're gonna hate me.
Because you'll probably pick like
you're gonna hate me.
Elton John, 81 Honky Tonk Chateau.
No,
European import.
No,
because
no.
Well,
I went with legitimate albums here, but
so did I. So my wild card was I was a fan of this band. It's an old school classic rock artist, but it's a 2000 release. And I went from fan to, I won't say fanatical, but it definitely, I went and saw this band live a couple of times after this. It's an album that I can listen to head to toe, still to this day. The other two picks were just a little bit stronger, and that was for me 2000, U2, All That You Can't Leave Behind.
Great
track
album.
1 to track 10. Here's what I'll say about that. Prior to this, they did Octung Baby, they did pop, sort of that alternative-y kind of vibe. Here, I think they took some of those elements, but they went back to more of a standard U2 sound, classic rock kind of thing. Wasn't all the hip hop elements, and they kept that to a minimum. And I think head to toe, I think like I was listening to U2 Radio, Walk On just great songs head to toe. And I was a U2 fan, but after that I was like, I got to catch these guys live. And I've seen them about 3 or 4 times live. Again, maybe not an earth-shattering pick, but wild card, U2 2000, All That You Can't Leave Behind.
That's a great album. That's got Beautiful Day on it. And like you said, Walk On. It's I would put that right up there with Joshua Tree and like The Unforgettable Fire as far as U2 is concerned.
Yeah.
And I've seen them twice. Can't argue with that pick at all. Great album. My old school pick, my wild card. My wild card pick, you will argue with, and I can't really defend it other than it's just an album that I can listen to head to toe, as you say.
Weird Al Yankovic.
No, you'd probably rather it be Weird Al Yankovic. But this is just one that I remember listening to head to toe when I was a kid, and I can still listen to it head to toe now, and that is Chicago's Greatest Hits. I think he hung up. I think he got up and walked away. See, I knew it. I knew it.
No, I dropped my pen.
Chicago's Greatest Hits is
Groo, what year was Chicago's Greatest Hits?
I think it was released in 1989. 1989. And it's basically half of it is from like that one huge hit Chicago album. What do you call it?
Which one was
Chicago
that huge
17?
One that we were kids?
Chicago 17.
Yeah.
It was with You're the Inspiration.
To me,
Hard Habit to Break.
Yeah.
Right, but they've got other ones on there. That's the thing. It's got all the hits from Chicago 17, but then it's got some of the other ones like I Don't Want to Live Without Your Love. I don't want to, and you see me walking by, and the tears are in my eye. Look away, babe. I mean, it's so saccharine and so cheesy and so beautiful. I love it. Hard Habit to Break. Hard to Say I'm Sorry with that getaway coda.
What do you want to give us every track?
No, I'm just saying. It's to me. It's a crowd pleaser for me. My crowd, me meaning me. But yeah, that's my wild card. So it didn't make my, true old school pick, but that's I truly love it. It was almost Journey's Greatest Hits, but then I looked at Chicago and I'm like, you know what, this album's more fun to listen to.
Well, here's what I'll say. I want to comment off that.
Please.
I don't hate it. because I'm a Chicago fan.
Okay.
I saw them open for Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and I actually loved the Chicago set a lot more than Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And it's made me yearn to see them again. And I definitely, we've talked about when they got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And, I just, I feel like superficial in the sense that there's not a lot of meat on the bone there. And I guess, if you're talking about pandemic and you're stuck on a desert island or you got 5 hours to kill, but I thought you might go more of the culturally meaty route, something with a little bit more.
Sometimes you just need some mindless fodder,
Okay.
All
right, Groo, you want to go with your old school pick?
Okay, yes. And you might get angry at this, but then again, you might not. You might see the point. Let's see. My old school pick is one that we've actually talked about very recently. Actually, we based a whole podcast off of it, and that would be Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf. 7 songs that are timed, the time is still because a lot of the songs are over 8 or 9 minutes. It's like watching a movie. It's like listening to a movie, listening to that album from start
What
to
year
finish.
what year was that released, please?
77.
77. I'm just writing it down on my notes.
And it's 7, not just winners, but 7 Grand Slams to me. And but it's I was thinking of Born to Run and things like that, and I would say Born to Run is a better album, but this is something that I can just throw on at any because it doesn't really I don't know, it's just so much fun to listen to. And it's just such a happy album, even though some of the songs are ballads, but just from where it starts to where it ends, it's just such an incredible album, and it's my pandemic old school pick, But
Okay.
you gotta say, I gotta keep prefacing it, pandemic. Yeah,
Why? I mean, it's a great album. It's a
Right.
classic.
it absolutely is.
Okay.
I just figured you get because you're sort of expecting me to go a little deeper, and deep is
You're a deep
but
music fan.
yeah, but when we're talking about specifically for these categories,
I think you're reading into this whole pandemic thing. I mean, why does it have to be something happy and uplifting? My thing is, you're stuck in the house. You got 5-6 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, does everything have to be? I'm surprised. Why didn't you pick "Shiny Happy People" by REM? Since you want such a fun, uplifting.
Well, that's
experience.
just a song, not an album.
Well, you know what I mean. Automatic for the people.
Now that's a great album.
It is a good album.
That's a great
It's
album.
a good album. I would say it's probably REM's best off the top of my head. Well, let me give you my. I don't dislike your pick. Bat Out of Hell is a classic album.
Okay.
And that's got a little more gravitas to it than your prior pick. I think you'll be pleasantly pleased. I went sort of in the pandemic vein for this pick because I have just wrote hours listening to this album over and over again, how it was sequenced, and it really solidified to me an artist that we both love and we've debated over the years and everything and everything else.
Can I
And
guess?
to me,
Wait, I want to form a guess in my head, and we'll see if we get it. I have it. Go ahead.
To me, it's Billy Joel's Greatest Hits, Volume 1 and 2,
Ooh,
1985.
I was close, but no cigar.
It's not I mean, if I wanted to go sort of culturally, I'd go, Nylon Curtain, Glass House.
I had The Stranger for you, but that was my guess.
Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate that. But no, for me, and again, I mean, Born to Run, I could have went one of those avenues. I did Pink Floyd. I mean, I've listened to a lot of stuff more in depth and tried to figure out, what is the artist trying to meet. But for just number of road hours, I mean, Billy Joel's Greatest Hits, Volume 1 and 2, it just solidified to me what an incredible pop rock artist he is. I loved how I remember even just digesting how he sequenced one song into the other. And I'm not a huge fan of You're Only Human, but The Night Is Still Young gave me so much hope as a Billy Joel fan. I was like, it's a great, the 2 singles. I mean, I sang along with, You're Only Human, in concert. But The Night Is Still Young, I had so much hope. Wow, Billy still got, that great song. I had hope as a Billy Joel fan. Again, it's a greatest hits package. You're not breaking anything down, but it's you got plenty of time to kill. And if you want to hear Billy Joel's best work, A to Z, it's a great listen. So yeah, Billy Joel's greatest hits.
Well, I wouldn't say that Billy Joel's greatest hits Volume 1 and 2 is his best work. I'd say it's his biggest hits.
Because we have great.
Yeah, but no, it really doesn't, because there's a lot of stuff that we love that's not on there that we probably think should be. However, I think it's a great pick because at the absolute minimum, you know that once you hit play on that record, tape, CD player, whatever it is, okay, streaming thing, you're going to know every word to every song that's going to come next. You'll have heard it a million times, and it's so familiar, and it's so much fun, and they're just all terrific songs. My only quibble with that whole thing is some of the songs are they put the radio edit on.
Please!
I don't like that.
And you're going to sit there and sell. You're going to sell me on Chicago's greatest hits and then quibble on Billy Joel.
The only quibble is that
you don't make a mockery of this podcast.
I'm not. Well, I always do, but what I'm saying is sometimes like My Life they shorten, a couple of other Pressure they shorten. They're and these are classic songs that really shouldn't be touched. But there's no better Pandemic or Desert Island album than Billy Joel's greatest. I can't argue with that.
Well, I don't know about Desert Island, but Pandemic, where I'm sitting home and I got 5 hours to kill and I'm cooking or I'm reading and I just want some background noise. Again, I hear what you're saying. I mean, I don't know. You want Billy Joel to do his greatest album cuts album? I mean, of course we know. Well, I mean, I'm sure a Chicago fan or a Journey fan could come on our podcast and go, "Well, I love the greatest hits," but there's so many, and I'm not a huge Chicago and Journey fan to know album cuts. But Billy, yes, but for what it is, just a great collection of his best hits. Yeah, to me, it's one of the strongest greatest hits albums ever released. I would argue that it's the strongest one. Yeah, I agree, but it's a bullcrap category anyway. But you have to say, you had to say greatest hits album. Billy Joel Volume 1 and Volume 2 is just packed.
Yeah, packed. You're absolutely right, and look, we've debated that before, and how that's sort of a double-edged sword, but we won't get into that now. But it's still a great pick. Now I'm interested in what you have picked for your new school.
Oh, it's not even close. It's a classic rock artist, and this really began my. Well, no. I was a huge fan, but this just solidified it. And this was an album that I listened to head to toe. And it, I'll give it to you, and then I'll tell you why it spoke to me so much. I just love it, and I can listen to it head to toe today. And that's Bruce Springsteen, The Rising, 2002.
Wow.
That's my new school pick. Bruce has released newer new school albums, but nothing has resonated to me as much as The Rising. As an ex-New Yorker, it sort of had it was themes of 9/11. There's themes of revenge, there's themes of loss, there's themes of moving on, I was a little bit later than Groo to the game on Bruce. I was always a fan, but I was a Billy guy, and then of course Groo and I went to see him in '99, and I was just hooked from there on in. And The Rising that built that momentum where I was like, this guy is just top-notch, world-class. And I pretty much love everything that Bruce has done since, and I have every B-side and every sort of deal on Apple Music with Bruce. But The Rising, to me, look, I'm not going to debate whether it's Born to Run level, but it speaks to me almost as much. I love every song, and even sort of the hokey, Let's Be Friends. I just love everything on the album. I can listen to it, and probably no song from Bruce gets me as going as Lonesome Day. To me, that's just about gets me out of my chair, and just the themes of that song with 9/11. I can remember Craig coming to visit me in Florida, and we had it on I-95 and blaring and hands up every single time, and just that communal experience you have with other fans when you hear something or you see someone live, and that's why Groo had it said, "Let come down to Florida and see this." I'm there. So it is a classic rock artist. It's it's already 18 years old, but absolutely love from head to toe The Rising. Great
album. And just for the record, I was a Billy guy too before I was a Bruce guy. We actually sort of became Springsteen fans around the same time, like 92, 93.
Well, I appreciate that honesty. I didn't know. I always thought you were a little bit more to the game, and maybe you were, but I always thought, when we went and saw him in 99, I was like, wow, I'm going with Groo, who's a real nuanced Bruce fan.
All right, so maybe I became like a concert goer for him beforehand.
I had Born to Run. I had Born in the USA. I had the live 75 to 85, but did I listen to it head to toe like Billy? No. And did I know all the trivia and the band members?
Me neither. Same with me. I had already seen Billy Joel at least twice before I ever even bought a Springsteen album besides Born in the USA. So I was a Billy guy before Bruce. But The Rising...
And so what I'll just add was that 99 show changed it for me, but then that 2002 release, I was like, just verified, like, this guy's killer. Yeah. This guy's killer.
Well, it'll be interesting to hear your response to mine, because 10 years later, Bruce Springsteen in 2012 would release my new school pick, which is called Wrecking Ball. Wrecking Ball is still the CD, even though the CD is still in my car player. Like, that for some reason I cannot take it out, because there's something about it, that album, the way it's made and the different choices that he made on that album, that I just love. And I remember realizing it when I went to see, I saw, of course, you know me, I waste every dollar I have on these concerts. So I saw many of those Wrecking Ball shows, and I found myself looking more forward to hearing those songs live than some of the classics. And I just love that album from beginning to end. It's just so damn good. And it's not an E Street Band record either, even though some of them do play on it. But the studio, and a lot of Springsteen fans disagree. They don't like it that much. But like, there's a studio version of Land of Hope and Dreams, which I think is much better than the original live version from the 2000 era.
Absolutely not.
I know a lot of people disagree.
That live version is killer. Much better.
Like I just said, most Springsteen fans disagree with me, but for some reason the arrangement on the album I just love, and then that's the arrangement he uses in concert right now, or at least since its release, and it blows me away. And the song Wrecking Ball is a great song. It's all about, like, it's basically, they got a song called Death to My Hometown on there, which is just a old school Irish rocker. And there's that hip hoppy-ish Rocky Ground, which fans hate, but I love. Like, I absolutely love the song, and the album is just, like you say, head to toe. For me, it's I'm not going to say it's a better album than The Rising. I don't think it is, but again, this is the one that I like to listen to more. It doesn't say that it's better or worse. It's just, this is the one that I really enjoy listening to constantly. I still do. So Wrecking Ball by Bruce Springsteen. We're actually talking about two new school picks, and they're both Bruce Springsteen. Isn't that something?
Well, was Wrecking Ball sort of, though, a collection of singles and like...
No, that was High Hopes. That was High Hopes. Okay. That was a couple years later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did Wrecking Ball have We Take Care of Our Own?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I will say Wrecking Ball is probably my second favorite of his new era sort of stuff. Era. Yeah, I mean, Wrecking Ball is real strong as well. I enjoyed the tour and some of those. Yeah, like
Easy Money is a great song. Easy Money. There's a song called Easy Money. Shackled and Drawn is really good.
Shackled and Drawn.
This
is one
depression,
that I
this
enjoy.
depression. The title of my biography is.
Oh, please, with the sad, sappy. I'll tell you this much: "Death to My Hometown" is one of my. I love. I have a bunch of the live versions on my phone. I mean, I could run all day to that song. Yeah, Wrecking Ball is really good. To me, Rising like a niche. It's real close.
Yeah.
But Wrecking Ball is really good. Wrecking Ball is really good.
All right, so there are some interesting similarities in our picks. There's only one that matches.
Yeah, let's review, Groo. Music albums, Wild Card. Moody did 2000, All That You Can Leave Behind. U2. Groo did 1989, Chicago's Greatest Hits. Old School, Groo went with 1977, Meatloaf and Bat Out of Hell. Moody, 1985, Billy Joel's Greatest Hits, Volume 1 and 2. And, of course, our new school picks were both from the boss, Bruce Springsteen. Moody went 2002 with The Rising. Groo went with 2012, Wrecking Ball.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Groo, so what have we learned today?
Well, we've learned that we are living in the past completely. But that's at this point, that's not such a terrible thing. Would you rather grow up when we grew up or grow up now? I'm going with then because I don't think I'd want to be a kid right now.
I understand, but I mean, I part of what I love about this podcast is I don't want to think about. You always have to bring up, oh, it's so terrible out there.
I'm answering your question. I'm answering your question, and then what have we learned? We've learned that we have, but I'm sure everybody does. But you and I, as far as pop culture goes, we're very connected to the stuff we grew up on, and we refuse to let it go. And there's nothing wrong with that. And especially in times like these, to be able to go back to a time where we could watch a movie or watch a match or listen to a song without hearing all kinds of distractions around us, like our phones or this or that or whatever's going on. Like I loved growing up in the 80s on Long Island. I talk about it a lot. I actually had a conversation with my dad last week or a couple weeks ago that I was like, nobody grew up better than we did. We weren't rich, but we weren't. What?
Not all of us got a chance to go to a private middle school, Friends Academy.
For 2 years, but we weren't rich, but we never wanted for anything. We had the greatest, and I'm talking both of us. Like, we grew up in the same kind of bubble on Long Island, and we liked the same kind of things, and
look, if you really want to get a little bit deep on it, which I don't, I want to wrap up soon, but I enjoyed going to Andy's house. My parents were divorced when I was young, and I loved going to Andy's house because he had brothers and he had a mom and a dad that were very loving, and they let us pretty much have run of the house. It was nothing to get a pizza and mozzarella sticks and put on a WWF VHS tape, and we could kill 2 or 3 hours. It's really no different. We've not changed.
You're right.
And Groo mentioned SNL. I could tell you how many times I went into his basement and we watched SNL tapes and just laughed our ass off, and then we conversated about the content like we do today.
Yeah, we basically invented the podcast before it was invented.
Yeah, I know. So, but it was fun. Yes, it was fun going back, and yes, I mean, when Groo was talking about how he's rooted in all this stuff, I remember even like I don't think it. I mean, maybe early 90s, I used to goof on Andy because I'd say to him,
let it go.
Because I definitely was I would be a little more open to like Guns N' Roses and some of the newer artists.
Mary J. Blige. You loved Mary J. Blige.
I'd say to like my friends, like, Groo was like, hey, I got this new artist I've been listening to, Bob Seger. Because Groo,
yeah.
Groo was like Seger, Springsteen, Queen, Elton, Billy. That was it. You couldn't get. It
was all. You know what it was? It was all the camp influence.
I'm simplifying it, by the way. Andy did listen to other artists, but
not many.
The Groo I knew growing up, he listened to like 5. And if you said to him, "Hey, you want to listen?" No, I just want to listen to the shit that I love, and that's it. And I can appreciate that. Yes, I can appreciate.
We're going to the Pointer Sisters concert.
Well, I'm surprised we didn't. We Nassau Coliseum, the Garden, Westbury Music Fair. We hit them all. So
I made a list.
Well,
I actually made a list of all the comedians that I've seen live, and I looked at it. I was like, wow, I have lived a charmed fucking life.
Well, what I will say to you is this:
And I mean that.
I have a box where I keep all my concert stubs. Now, there's definitely not everything in there. I know I've been to other shows, but like once a year, I'll just sit like Indian style on the floor and I'll just take out all the concert stubs and be like, oh, wow, Pink Floyd here, Bruce, Billy. I mean, so many were with you, Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
And I'm just, you just think about all the great shows, all the great music shows. And, yeah, I mean, guys at our age, 40s, 50s, how much more do our guys have left? But we've already talked about it. But hopefully we'll get one final splurge before after this is done. Hopefully.
Yeah.
So
hopefully.
Well, Groo, that wraps up the Nothing Worthwhile Pandemic Special. Speaking of old school, next week we would like to promo. We're going to be discussing. We've talked about it before. Probably the first major classic rock band to reunite. It was Lore. We thought they would never get back again, but indeed, hell froze over in 1994 as the Eagles reunite. Back then in '94, I was just getting hip to the Eagles. Perhaps Andy was a little more hipper to the game.
I don't think so.
Groo, any thoughts off the top of your head about the Eagles '94? Hell freezes over.
Well, I don't think I was very much into the Eagles, but I was always fascinated by reunions. And I think that's what drove me to. Of course, I knew Hotel California like you did, but Camp had introduced me to a couple of other songs that they had done, which I was like, wow, it's the same band, huh? Like Desperado. I didn't know that until late in the game. The Last Resort from Hotel California is one of my favorites. Wasted Time. Some of the Joe Walsh songs. So this was a big thing. But I was always interested in when bands get back together. It's always fun to watch like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremonies to see like how rusty they are. I don't want to crap all over him because he passed away unfortunately. But if you watch like the last Cars performance with Rick Ocasek. At when they got inducted, you could tell he just doesn't want to fucking be there. And to me, these are fun to watch. But the Eagles, we thought it was going to be a train wreck, and it turned out to launch an even longer second act for them than their first one. So I'm looking forward to this one. I think discussion.
Listening to your comments, just like wrestling. We love hearing the backstage stories of how bands break up and eventually how they get together. And I've done a little research already on the Eagles, and it's very interesting, some of the stuff that broke them up. And we've seen documentaries and stuff, but we'll formally talk about it. I think for me, what was the most interesting, the only thing I will share was the reworking of Hotel California to me is just a new level classic, radio classic. The live,
the acoustic,
and it's
kind of right.
Yeah. Oh, that I don't know if it's acoustic, but I would say that whole salsa sort of flamenco themed.
Yeah.
Hotel California. I mean, when you first hear it, you're like, I don't even know what they're playing. And it was the first classic rock single to get reintroduced on radio in a different arrangement. Then you sort of had Eric Clapton did it with Layla, and it's happened since, but I remember just being completely jazzed with that new version of Hotel California, being like, that's really creative, a real creative reworking of kind of an old gray lady that was super cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, and I think they opened the show with that. If I'm remembering correctly. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to unpack with this stuff. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I love talking about the Eagles. Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Hopefully, we're approaching 2,000 downloads. We want to thank everybody. It's great to get back on the mic, and we'll have some new content to listen to. And Groo, you want to take us out?
Yes. Well, thank everybody, especially those in what was the name of that town in India?
Bangalore,
India.
India.
We love you.
On, more fans.
Bangalore, we love you. Tell your friends. Okay, so thank you all for listening today, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Remember, Evan, you want to plug one last time the store?
Okay. Well, if you have any of your cosmetic needs, please hit up New You Life Center. Thanks, Groo, for the toss. New You Life Center, www.newoulifecenter.com. That's NUYOU lifecenter.com. Or give them a call at 602-274-0068. Tell Marie that Moody and Groo sent you and get 15% off your first service.
Oh, I thought it was going to be like, tell them Nothing Worthwhile sent you and you get charged an extra $20.
That could be the next time. Yeah, that'll be the second time.
But yeah, so all right, great. Yeah, do that. Definitely go check that out. She is something else, man. She will take good care of you, as she takes wonderful care of my friend Evan here.
Yes.
And so we will see you next week. Looking forward to that as always. We hope you all enjoy your 3-day Labor Day weekend. Please be safe. Don't screw around, because even though this pandemic has produced great content, such as what you just listened to, we want to get back to normal. So let's do the right thing, guys and girls. So we will see you next time.
He's got to go on a soapbox. He has to go on a soapbox. He has to.
So let me step off my soapbox and tell you that we will see you next week. And until then, it's 1, 2, 3.
Rip 'em. Whack whack all year long.